Have they forgot to unmute their mic?
May meeting to order. First up, we have Carson Power updating on us on their I guess it's a special use permit for solar array.
Sure. So I know it's a big agenda, so I'll be fairly quick.
We have Frank here. Okay, good.
And pause wherever the board wants to stop. So just an inventory of additional materials we've submitted since the last meeting. We submitted a map of mineral soil groups 1 through 4 overlaid with the solar project to show the relatively small area of mineral soil group 3 that will be impacting, just as a reminder that something that we coordinate through the Department of Ag and Markets to make sure that we're protecting those soils in construction. We submitted a bedrock survey. So per request of the board, we sent our surveyor back on site to take note of areas of exposed bedrock. Typically that's an action we would do after additional approvals from the board, but before we put our full construction design together, we brought that in, we did that early. So that document was submitted to the board as well. There were a few areas, really 2 areas where the exposed bedrock was substantial that we would have to essentially remove panels. They couldn't go over that area. A couple other little spots where you'd see rock on the ground, but we could build over that. So one of those areas when you're coming up the access road, if you remember from our site walk, was to the right. That big chunk, obviously that cannot be constructed over. So we removed panels from our layout that will be over that section. And then if you're looking all the way in the northeast corner of the array, I actually don't think we walked over. There's another small section of exposed bedrock. Same thing, we wouldn't be able to construct over it. So we pulled the panels off of those areas. We submitted a glare study. So we contracted with Colliers, who put together a comprehensive glare study report. As we expected, they did not find that there was any glare resulting from the project. Obviously, you need to be able to see the glass panels in order to impacts from the glare. The view is extremely limited, and any view of panels that there is not head on. So that study found that there are no glare impacts from the project. That was submitted as well. As a follow-up from our meeting last month, where we had Matt Allen come from Saratoga Associates, and we talked about the visual analysis that we were going to go and prepare. We submitted that to the board last week. I hope that everybody's had a chance to review it. If not, we can certainly go through it quickly tonight. I also will have Matt on, so in a moment I'll yield to Matt, who might do a screen share and just kind of walk the board through very quickly how he prepared the visual analysis, what the steps were, and how we can kind of authenticate to accuracy. So we'll go through that in a moment. Additionally, we did finally get correspondence from the DEC. So just as a refresher, we're ultimately looking for letters of no impact from both the DEC and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So we finally got correspondence from the DEC. They did concur with our assessment that there would be no impacts to bog turtles, which were one of the hits on the DEC Natural Heritage Report. And they also agreed that as long as we abide to the tree clearing window, which we've planned on doing from the get-go, there would be no take and no impact to threatened and endangered bat species. So that was the result we were hoping for from the DEC, and that finalizes things with them. We're expecting a similar letter from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We keep bugging them. They keep saying they're busy. George is chuckling because he knows the deal. So we should get that within a few weeks. We're not expecting any surprises. They usually toe the same line as the DEC. We're waiting for that final correspondence from U.S. Fish and Wildlife as well. We contracted a vendor called Hudson Valley Forestry to help us figure out and plan for that most ecologically responsible way to clear the trees that need to be cleared for a project. So Hudson Valley Forestry did an assessment for us. They sent a DEC certified forester on site who took an inventory of the trees on site. They did find that there's approximately 57,000 board feet of trees, and they estimated the value of the timber to be about $11,000, which, as you can imagine, is a lot less than what it would likely cost for us to clear the timber. Just again, as a refresher, the property was selectively logged within the last 10 years, so we did not expect there to be a lot of high value timber there. One of the things that we're thinking about, I'd like feedback from on the board on the tree clearing. In order for us to be, remove the trees and make the most responsible use of the trees, it would be to find good use of the trees in a few ways. So one would be whatever is usable for lumber, to use it as lumber, whatever is usable for mulch or firewood, to allow the forester to do that as well. Ultimately, what that would allow us to do is minimize the amount of chipping, because any larger trees that can be hauled offsite and put to good use would do so. A few of the other things that Hudson Valley Forestry suggested we do, which is included in the memo we submitted to the board, instead of using regular silt fences for erosion control, we would fill the bags with chips collected on site. We would leave as much chips on site as we possibly can. So organic material that's being harvested from the trees would retain on property as much as possible. They also suggested that we include brush piles around the perimeter of the fence. So there's some really good areas to the south and to the east, the south and to the west of the project site, where we will have to do some additional clearing to prevent shading on the system. There'll be a gap there. So we've added, I think, 7 brush piles to our site plan. So that's good habitat for jackrabbits, birds, and some other smaller species. So that's a form of voluntary mitigation for the removal of wood up on top. What the feedback we're looking for from the board is ultimately we'd like to give the forester who we hire to do the tree clearing permission to use the timber that's harvested in the most responsible way possible, which would include not being restricted to the 50,000 board feet number that the town has in place. That would trigger the requirement for an extra timber harvesting permit. The timber harvesting permit regulations read, I'll read it to you: harvesting of timber for commercial gain in quantities of greater than 50 standard cords or 50,000 board feet. So what we would propose, and Drew will likely look for some feedback from you as well. We have no interest in realizing the value of the timber that estimated $11,000. So we'll have to negotiate with the town board, a pilot, and some other forms of tax revenue and benefits for the town from the project that we would include any revenue realized from the sale of timber products harvested. We would make that value available back to the town. So the company and the project is not realizing any commercial gain from the timber taken down on site. That value would be given back to the town, and that would allow us to sell the lumber, essentially put the wood to as best use as possible. I'll pause there for a moment. On the tree disposal, if anybody on the board has any questions or comments on what I just laid out.
Were you able to connect with Warren regarding that aspect or?
Yeah, Warren and I briefly discussed. I think it's probably a discussion we need to have with Drew as well. But I'll go to Warren if he's got any comments there.
Thoughts on that, Warren?
We did talk about that, gave me a call. So this would be a proposal that you would voluntarily integrate into the project.
Correct.
And you're looking not to have to go through a timber harvesting special permit process.
Correct.
So it would be a litigation aspect. And you wouldn't realize any gain on this. It would be contributed to the town. That
Correct, likely in the form of a post-community benefit, which might go along with.
I mean, the benefit to the town is that it reduces the chipping, which would be the biggest problem with one of the biggest problems with the removal of the trees. And I took a look at the statute. And I think this is something that the applicant should propose more formally through maybe its legal counsel. But I did see a way to possibly do this through the waiver of requirements provision in our law. And the language of our commercial logging provision, it really talks in terms of a commercial gain, which wouldn't be their focus or aim on this. So I leave it to them to make a formal proposal on that they would integrate into their project. But there might be a window to do that.
Okay. And what you felt Drew needed to comment on this?
Well, Drew would make the initial, you'd have to run it past Drew. He makes the initial calls on the.
So Drew, is this the first you're hearing of this, or do you have any comment on this? Or?
Yes, this is the first I'm hearing of it. I don't think I have an issue with it. I think.
One second. Yeah, where's the vote? Is it still over there? All right, Trish, your phone.
It should be behind them. It's like on some. There. There is a way to do it manually on the other side.
They did the last meeting was signed.
Thank you. All right.
Drew, say something?
Can you hear me now?
All right.
Okay. I don't have an issue with the proposal. I feel like commercial timber harvesting permit is for the board to have some control over the project. You have control over this project already. So I don't really see the need for a standalone timber harvest permit anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, no. You're not gonna leave a mess. Yeah.
Andrew,
Yes.
would you be able to explain this chart to us?
Yes, as best I can. Although I know George has a background in forestry, he might be more helpful than me.
What is this chart?
The chart, which was prepared by Hudson Valley Forestry, which has a list of all of the trees, and then it has a bunch of data, which I didn't understand.
Essentially, it's an inventory of the
Right.
trees they found on site.
Mhm.
So I think that the top is diameter of breast height, and then the vertical bar is species of tree. And then they take inventory of, 10 spruce at 6 dBH, 5 spruce at 8 dBH, etc. And then the following page, they're overlaying what has timber value. Yeah, right there. What has timber value against what they found on site. And that's how they're getting to an estimate. I think it's $11,400 for what the value of the timber would be.
Right, so I mean, would it be fair to say that this report is really more about the harvesting of the timber as opposed to the ecological impact?
That's correct. Correct.
Okay, so then my other question is, with regards to hickory, the line item for hickory, could you explain what that means?
So the line item. So where. Again, so the vertical is diameter of breast height. And then the number is counting how many trees of that size were found on site of that species.
So this would be 2 hickory trees?
That's what it would, yeah, if there's
Yeah.
only 2 total for the hickory line, and
Right.
they only measured 2 hickory trees.
Okay, so do you know where those trees are?
I do not, I could ask the forester.
I mean, I'm asking because the bats are particularly, those are the trees that the bats really tend to go towards. So I'm just curious where they are on the property.
Sure, I think, and that is why we have to adhere to the bat clearing, the tree clearing window for the bats. We wouldn't be able to clear any trees until November 1st. I believe the window is November 1st to March 31st of 2024. Because the bat vacated the roost trees.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm just curious to know where they are on the property. And but just from the perspective of do those trees really need to come down? If they're right on the perimeter, for example,
Sure,
of the area which you're clearing, could
Yeah.
those trees remain? Or, is there some way of maybe just helping the bat population that would be coming in the summers to have trees where they would be roosting in the future?
sure, I can see where those are. The forester knows, it is an entirely different exercise to map and geolocate where each tree is.
How did they develop this chart?
I'm not sure, maybe George knows.
I mean, they're going off of like,
They walk in there and
They literally walked
the
in there.
timber, yeah.
Yeah, it's since there's only 2, I'm gonna guess the forester has a memory of where they would be. Just on the forest, so one of the things that the DEC requested of us, and we submitted to the board previously, was the forest cover survey. So we did have a contractor look at a map and quantify exactly how much forest cover is today and how much forest cover would remain after the project.
Mhm.
And then get that was sent to the DEC so that they would agree that our project would not be removing such a substantial amount of forest cover that it would impact that hibernacula.
Not the hibernacle or the,
Sorry, the roost trees.
The roost, yeah.
Hibernacular caves. No caves. But Helen, I can certainly follow up with you about where those 2 trees are located. And I will say, the limits of tree clearing, the forester went beyond our limits of tree clearing and what their survey is, just to provide additional data. So it's possible those hickory trees are
right,
just outside what we need to be down. So
right.
happy to follow up with you on that.
yeah, they went like to the actual edge. Is that what they did?
They went pretty close. They kind of took we gave them like a KML file, which is same file we've been using previously. They kind of took that and then they went beyond a bit in their survey. Yeah, they drew it out. They drew it out in there, yeah.
And so who would so I guess everything would then be marked. If the project were to go ahead, right? All these trees would be marked, what's gonna get cut down, or at least the
Limit the
border, the limits of it. And who is going to monitor that? Like, to make sure that we're on. There'll be someone, you'll have a forester doing that, is someone from us, like Drew?
Just standard code enforcement, yeah.
This is Drew would be going out there and making sure
Yeah, so
they're not cutting anything outside the marked
Mm-hmm.
areas.
So we would hire a forester to do that scope of work, would likely be Hudson Valley Forestry. And then it would be, code enforcement's responsibility to ensure that they're cutting down what's within the permitted limits of disturbance for the site plans.
You have to make notification of that the work's gonna be done as a condition.
Yeah, the limits of disturbance is required to be marked. It must be done. Part of the SWIP, so if it's not done. Immediate violation. But again, if there's no enforcement or nobody inspecting, then there's nobody enough, so.
Right.
I said typically that would be local code enforcement, or if they don't have the time or feel they're inadequately do it, then you could always ask us.
Drew, does that sound like something you'd be able to do in the future if they came to that?
On a project this size, I think that would be something we'd ask George to do.
You asked me to do it.
That's a lesson in new business.
Well, no, that's the way it works. Like, I said, that's not for this project in particular. That's every town that we work in. Again, just like we work with planning boards and zoning boards doing projects, right? Code enforcement is also able to say, you know, we need additional assistance on this project to do inspections or enforcement, and then set up an escrow and you pay our consultant to do that. So again, I don't want, it's not like we're picking on the solar or anything like that. That's a general comment for any project. That's just a standard.
Michael, do you know
for
if
something
the
like that.
Eric Kvyat letter got sent to DC?
Did. Before they sent that response.
To the same person? Was it sent?
It
to
was the
same person?
contact that we got from Andrew. Who did it go to?
But I think it would be good to know if it was the same person.
Ed, do you remember the contact you gave me?
No, it's whoever I had. Yeah, I'm one step removed from actually corresponding with the police.
Is that referring to?
It's the same, it's the same office that reviews, there's a little bit of a carousel of folks who we engage with.
Wildlife biologist? He's the one that responded about the turtles and the bats.
Well, we can always just forward it to her just to make sure. If it's not, you check who you sent it to. If it's not that same person, forward it to that person.
Okay.
Oh, I know what I would. Does anyone else have any more questions about any of these submissions that we?
have two.
Yes, that's,
Point 3 in the Hudson Valley Forestry letter says grindings will be used, which you touched on. Grindings will be used as much as possible in lieu of erosion and sediment control measures such as silt fences wherever shown on the site plans, environmental filter berms. Such as these are used for perimeter erosion control and break down on their own over time. That sounds good. To me, it doesn't make sense that chipped wood, though, would do a more effective job than the silt berms in protecting any erosion control coming off the site and possibly across the street to the Bean River. Is there any documentation on the difference between the erosion control of the silt fences compared to using wood chips? If they were used in addition to, that might be, but that's not what this says. It doesn't say. in addition
maybe
to.
George.
Two different ways of using wood chips on site. One is as a mulch, so basically the same as spreading hay, right? So if you mulch a site versus leaving it open, bare soil, that drastically reduces the amount of soil that erodes, whether that be wood chips or some sort of, you know, straw or hay and whatnot. And then the other thing is silt fence. Silt fence really is not, strictly speaking, an erosion control. It's like a sediment control. Like now the erosion has already happened and the soil's moving. And then it gets dammed up essentially behind the silt fence and the silt drops out. So what they're talking about here is basically making an organic roll out of the wood chips. And then you would stake that in place. And the water would come and back up behind that. The benefit to doing organic things is that you don't have to come take it down later, like the silt fences you see a lot of times they're like left up, you see kind of become part of the landscape, but it's not supposed to happen. They're supposed to be removed after the site is stabilized. So that's a benefit to using them. The DC does allow, you know, organic things, but it would have to be incorporated into the SWIP. Currently, the SWIP is saying silt fence.
Yeah,
So if this is going to be used in lieu of silt fence, then that notation would have to be, you know, shown on the SWIP plans. If they're going to use them just as mulch, then that would be fine.
and that's all. It's just phrasing because it says in lieu of.
Right. No, and I think he's talking here about possibilities of things you could do that
Yeah.
might be more responsible than just shipping them up and
It would be great to
getting
use
rid of
them in
them,
tandem.
or yeah, exactly, just making use of them rather than just taking down a resource and getting no tangible benefit from it whatsoever. I think that's the point he's trying to make. But yeah, I have no problems with it as long as it's noted on the stormwater plan so that the contractor knows how to use them, how not to use them.
And you figure they're about as effective as a silt fence.
Oh, absolutely, because if you do your real erosion control correctly, your silt fence will do nothing. It's really a last ditch effort. Everything else on site failed. And the silt
Okay.
fence is now there to protect you.
That was well played, the last ditch.
Like that.
My second thing was the glare study. So does the glare study, I'm not gonna try to find it. Does the material that you said, is that the intention of Carson not to put any glare protection on the panels because they're not visible from the majority of people?
No, so
Okay.
the panels will still have the anti-glare coating as required in the local law. I think one of the things that the board had asked about previously was, even with that, is there any potential to have a glare impact? So they run a program through it, they create a 3D model, they put the exact spec of panel on that we currently have on the site, which is the Hanwha Q-cell panel. And they run a simulation that shows where the sun would be 365 days a year, reflecting off of a ton of different viewpoints, and then they quantify what the glare impacts could be possibly be.
So is that assuming that coating is on there already? Is that incorporated into the study or is that,
Yeah,
it is?
yeah, but I think just for where this project is and that there's no residences that have a direct view of the glass, there's no glare impacts.
Anything else? Nope. Anyone else?
Wondering if there's any other comments about the visuals, all those different, all the different studies that Saratoga did. From the different-
I think we have the visual guys up next.
Okay,
So if we want to move on to that, that's Matthew, or is that who?
Yeah, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm Matt Allen with Saratoga Associates, and I met with you last month in person, and I presented a viewshed map, viewshed analysis, just to give you an idea of where the project would potentially be visible from offsite locations. And we told you that we would be continuing our study in the subsequent days, providing photo simulations from various locations where particular homeowners had expressed interest, or where we thought the board would have interest in the project. So that's what we've done. And you should have in front of you a report that we have written that includes photo simulations from 13 different places that we photographed in the surrounding community. And I will share my screen. And let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
Okay. What I am sharing is the viewshed map, the online directly from my software, but the equivalent of the viewshed map that I shared last month and that is in your current package. And as I told you last month, we conducted the viewshed analysis for a total of, I believe it's 49 control points within the fence line. So what the viewshed does is calculates land area in the surrounding landscape where one or more of those control points is visible. And that's expressed in a blue color. And the darker the blue, the more control points are visible. As an example, obviously within the project site, and I'll just turn a layer off here. Within the project site, within the fence line, obviously most of the control points are visible. So you get a very dark blue. Once you get outside the project area into the surrounding landscape, the agricultural fields on hillsides that slope in the direction of the project, you get a number of control points, but it's a much many fewer control points are visible. So you get a much lighter blue. So that's what we went over last month. And that map is currently in your package. What we've done since is visited a number of places within, generally within a 2 to 3 mile study radius. Many of them were homes, homeowners that expressed interest in having us look at their properties in particular. And we also picked some roadside locations. We also hiked to the top of Stissing Mountain and took a photograph from the fire tower. So there were a total of 14 different places that we took photographs from and provided photo simulations. Those locations are identified in the yellow view arrows that you can see throughout here, plus Stissing Mountain, which is off the page. I just wanted to give you a quick idea of how the photo simulations are put together, the technology that we use, and provide a general understanding of how we know that the simulations are accurate. What you're looking at here is just a digital representation of the 3D model that we use. So you can see the model is built, and this is generated using LiDAR data, which is a point cloud data source, where millions of light pulses bounce off the ground surface and off of vegetation and buildings, and give you a very accurate 3D representation of the surrounding landscape. So not only did we build a model of the project site, which is in this area, we built the entire surrounding landscape. So when we look at a particular view, we have the full context of that view, including the existing tree lines, ridge lines, anything that we would need to be able to correlate our 3D model to a photograph. And I'm going to jump over and show you. This is the software that we use for the photo simulations. This is called 3D Studio Max, which is the industry standard for project visualization, 3D modeling, and photoreal rendering. So right now, I just have one of the photographs that we visited, and I picked this one simply because it's relatively close to the project site, and it gives you a good idea of what would be happening with the project. So this is the existing condition photograph, and we built the 3D model. And here, this is a little bit difficult to for the layperson to understand, but what you're looking at is the 3D model of the surrounding landscape draped over the photograph. And the reason I show this is to give you an idea of how accurate the 3D model alignment is with the existing landscape visible in the photograph. So if I click this layer on and off, you can see that the ridge line lines up very well. You can actually see sometimes it's fairly unique masses of trees. Those line up very well. That's just a testament to the accuracy of the LiDAR source data that we use. You may have a question of how do we know that we are showing the 3D view of the model accurately within the frame of the photograph. When we took the photograph, we marked the photo point with a handheld GPS. So we had the exact latitude and longitude and elevation of where we were standing when we took the photograph. So we know precisely where this photograph was taken. We also took all the photographs using a 50mm lens on the camera. That's another parameter that we have to match in our 3D modeling in order to get the 3D model to align with the photograph. So given that we know the latitude, longitude, elevation, and focal length, the only unknown we have is exactly which direction were we pointing the camera. So just very quickly, I'll show you how we arrive at that. And you can see I'm just going to move the target of the camera. And you can see we have control over it. All this is doing is if you were a standing photographer at a known location and just pointing the camera in a different direction, panning, moving up and down. So the way we capture the camera target is to simply move these parameters until the landscape that we see matches the photograph in the background. This takes a little bit and I've already knocked it out of alignment, but you get the idea of how we can make the 3D model match the photograph. One other thing I did is you can see up on the ridge line, part of the 3D model is in green. And that represents the trees that are within the project site that are proposed to be removed. So, you know, once I have the camera aligned, I can take that out. And then you can see, and I'll just turn it on and off. You can see where the tree line will change from this particular photo location. So that's just a quick run through of the first step. Oh, and also the solar panels. I'll turn this off. We built the solar panels in. And you can see the solar panels on the hillside. What this represents is if there were no trees in the way at all, where would the solar panels fall within the frame of the photograph? So this gives you that representation. So that's useful information for us to know whether the solar panels would be visible above the trees, through the trees. So if I go back and turn the tree layer back on, you can see, maybe a little bit difficult to see online, but you can see where the tree line would change. And if the solar panels were visible, the color of the solar panels would show up somewhere in here if there were a gap in the trees. In this case, there's not, because the solar panels fall entirely behind the tree line.
Where is this view from? We're looking from which way?
Andrew, could you help me out? This is on Tripp, one of the houses on Tripp Road. Yeah, the Goldman residence.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump over. From this stage, I just took a screen rendering of this view and brought it into Adobe Photoshop. And I'm just going to show you that also. So now I'm in the second software. I've saved out a copy of that expression of the 3D modeling. So here's a snip of that overlaid on the photograph, and I'll turn it on and off a little bit, and you can see how well it aligns. If you look very carefully at the tree line here, it matches, it's very, very accurate. And part of that accuracy comes from the tree survey that the project sponsor had done. That tree survey is even more accurate than the source LiDAR data that we had for the entire study area, which is quite accurate. But within the project site and a little bit around the boundaries, the tree heights are even more accurate than we were able to get for LiDAR. So everything matched up extremely well. So now that we know that the model matches the camera location, all that we had left to do is determine whether the panels would be visible. So here is an expression of the 3D model as would exist if the trees were removed. So I'll toggle on and off, and you can see the green on the ridge line are where trees would be coming out. So this view is what you would have left after those trees are removed. So you can see there's some trees that are visible above the model. I then went in and photoshopped those trees out. So then you ended up with this view here, which is the view that this homeowner would have after the trees are removed. And then there's a question of, is there any solar panel visibility? So we go back to the layer that I saved out, and here's where the solar panels would fall within this particular view. And if I turn on the trees to be cleared, I put that back. So what you have here is the solar panels are completely fall beyond the existing tree line, meaning the solar panels are not visible from this particular location. So this would be your end result. This is what the homeowner would see. So this is what the homeowner sees now, and this is what the homeowner will see in the future. And no solar panels are visible. Excuse me. So that's just a quick run through. We did this for 14 different locations, and we provided those locations in the letter that we provided to the board. And I'll just quickly go through and explain the graphics that are included in here. And figure 1 is just simply the view shed map that we provided last month with the photo locations that we took and did photo simulations shown on the map. And we also did one line of sight profile because we did not have a photograph from an area that turned up to have the darkest blue area. So it was an area of impact. So we wanted to know what would fall, how much of the project would be visible from there. So we used a line of sight profile to help understand that. And I'll just quickly go through the photo simulations. There's a sequence to them that I'll explain after the first couple, and then you can look at them individually. But here is an existing condition view from 383 Skunks Misery Road. And here is an expression of where the solar panels would fall within this frame of view. And I used all of the same methodology that I explained. I built the 3D model in, aligned the 3D model with this particular image, and then I simply traced the overlay of the solar panels that was generated in the 3D model and just gave it a dashed line indicating that this is precisely where it will fall within this photograph. And as you can see from this location, it falls below the foreground trees that are at the edge of this immediate meadow. And looking at further in the data, there are several layers of trees in the distance that if this first level of trees is removed for any reason, the trees around the perimeter of the site will continue to block visibility of these solar panels. So there's really a lot we can do with the 3D model to get an idea of what the potential visibility would be and look at what if scenarios and help walk the homeowner through the process so that they feel comfortable with what their potential impact would be. And from this location, there will be no impact because the project cannot be seen from this location above the existing foreground tree line. And here's another location. This is 387 Skunks Misery. Out of the 14 locations that we simulated, we found that 13 of them would have no view of the, 12 of them would have no view of the solar panels themselves at all. 2 locations would have views. This is one of them. So 387 Skunks Misery is at a unique elevation where the vista is over the top of the foreground trees. So the project site is in this area here. You can see these pine trees here are within the area to be cleared. So we built the 3D model and we removed the pine trees that are proposed to be removed, as well as anything in the front. And then we left the trees that would be there. So what you're seeing here, and I'm just going to jump back to the existing and to the proposed, and you can see the change.
And is that without the additional screening trees that the applicant is proposing to plant?
The screening trees that the applicant is proposing to plant, let me zoom in here. This
Okay.
line of green here are the trees proposed in their original planted height of 12 feet. And you can see this darker line behind it are the actual solar panels. And we also did the view, assuming, given the trees 6 to 8 years of growth.
Right.
And those trees begin to do a better job of getting up above the solar panels beyond.
Okay, what were the other two was it other two locations or the one location?
One other location, the other location was the fire tower at Stissing Mountain.
Okay, so Winchell Mountain Road, you felt is
yes, yep. I'll walk through each of these, but all of the other locations either had no view at all.
Yeah, we don't have time to go through every single one. I just want to hit
Okay.
on the ones that have impacts, so
Okay.
that's why.
The only other one on this was Augustine's.
Okay, here's Winchell Mountain Road. And you can see from here, there's a change in the tree line. But the panels would fall in this area, so they stay below the tree line.
Yeah, just FYI, it's Winchell Mountain Road, not Winchester.
Oh, okay, my apologies on that.
No worries. Okay, so nothing, and then the fire tower, wait, what's this?
That was Carson Road.
Okay.
Yeah, Carson Road,
That was
simply
negative
because of the
also.
topography in between screens.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, what was that one?
Nope.
Back on one?
Get back on that.
That one, what's that?
Yeah, yeah, I apologize. I had forgotten. This one is a minor impact. So you can, yeah, I apologize. There is one more. You can see panels here. This is from Sunnyside Farm on the driveway leading to the Augustine residence.
So the reason for this view is essentially, this is straight up our access road, so you get a kind of a keyhole view from this angle. We have another one from the residence itself, if you want to go to that.
One, I just have a question. Where is Prospect Hill Road in relation to this photo?
Behind.
This way.
Like that one? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay, just jumping back, this is the Augustine residence itself. And the only change here would be a slight change in the tree line. So
And
just
obviously,
jump,
all these are in the file and in the folder, right? All these views. Oh, okay, here's the fire tower.
yep.
Here.
So you can say here is where the project would be. Then I'll just go back and forth. So there's existing and proposed. And then we just add one more sheet that highlights in yellow the areas visible, and then the white dashed are where the expanded area of the panels are that is not visible, that is screened behind trees. So this would be the built-out view from the fire tower, and the distance here is about 4 3/4 miles away.
Okay,
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Sure, I'll hang in for any questions if anybody has any, but I'll just go on mute for now.
does anyone have any questions? No. I know, on the board.
This is more helpful than anything I've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely. I know there was one letter that questioned about the the dotted line. So if there's just dotted white lines there, it means you can't see it. You shouldn't, so. All right, was there any other additions to the file? Yeah.
No, that was it. I think that was it. So we were happy to see the results. I think there was, we could see it where we expected to see it, and it was hidden from view in the areas that we expected to hide it from view. And Saratoga Associates certainly did a really thorough job at helping us evaluate any visual impacts.
And George, you're happy with the work?
Absolutely.
Frank,
Yeah,
hello.
yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
So do you have any comments of any of this? And then I'm gonna ask my question of you about process wise.
Yeah, no, let me let you ask about process and then I can go into that.
And so what we need from you, Frank, is, guiding us through this. It's the appendices process, and to make sure that anything that mitigation is built into the project, so that we can make our determination from that without having any sort of conditional situation going on, as we've discussed previously and as you've explained to us. So, we have to make sure that everything is actually built in, all these things that we've been hitting on, and talking about. Is in there, so I guess that's my question, that's your job, right, to make.
Yes, yeah.
To go through what's missing, is there anything right now that you see stand out, like, hey, where's this, we need, we'll need that for this second, and then, go ahead.
Well, a couple of things. Well, first, I want to say, I think that all the information that's been given so far, very, very helpful. And I think what Matt Allen just presented on visual is very helpful. So if we can get that in other words, we go through the part 2, we checked off as a draft for you with the part 2 EAF. Some things that were small impacts, not worried about those. Because they become clearer as you get more information. We did check off visual or aesthetic resources as possibly a large impact. And I think what we want to do is to get Saratoga Associates work as an appendix so that when you come to making a determination of significance, you need to build in as part of the action what's been proposed by the applicant, and to know that the record's complete. And I think the record is nearly complete. I do think it's good to get, and actually talked about this afternoon a little bit with Warren. I think it would be good to get that response from Fish and Wildlife. You've got applicants got a response from DEC. If we could get a response from Fish and Wildlife, and I would even suggest that either Mike or Warren, Mike, you as chairman, or Warren, if Matthew's not sure of when that's coming, you might write a letter to Fish and Wildlife on behalf of the town, asking them for comment, saying that you want to make a determination of significance on this. Without that determination of significance for seeker, can't take any actions on the project. So I think, hopefully, Matt was saying that, if I heard you correctly, Matt, that, you expected something from Fish and Wildlife in 2 to 3 weeks.
Andrew, Frank.
Andrew, oh, I'm sorry, Andrew.
No worries, Frank.
I'm looking at Andrew, but using the wrong, sorry. If that came in 2 to 3 weeks, that's fine, but I think you want to make sure you close the issue on that, because you have another agency that hasn't responded. That would be nice to get their response. Once you do, I don't know of any other closure responses we need. The only one I thought was left open just a little bit is to just, and I think this is largely been answered tonight, and that was the chipping versus removal of lumber from the site. And I think I thought Drew's way of responding to this, to have George really make sure and monitor this, makes sense. I would call that, what we usually do is call that environmental monitor. That is, that you're going to have a way to monitor that this is done correctly. And I think if that's built in and the applicant agrees to that, it can become part and parcel of the action. What I'm getting at is, once we get that done, we move to a part 3 EAF, and you're in a position then, if you feel, this is the board's decision, if you feel then that all of these issues have been adequately mitigated. By that I mean, it's, let's take the three houses from what you may be able, or 3 points of view where you may be able to see the solar panels. I think you can make your own judgment if that's minor, which I'm looking at this from a distance, so I don't want to judge it, but from what Matt Allen said was what I saw, these and what I've seen so far submitted, where we had checked a major impact in the EAF. This now may actually become, with the tree plantings they've provided and the investigation they've made, this may be mitigated enough so that the board feels it is no longer, it doesn't rise to the level of becoming significant adverse impacts. They would be more moderate or small impacts. If that's the case, and we can show you took that hard look, then the board would be in a position to make a determination of significance. That might be a negative declaration. It could be if the board is comfortable with that. And you could do that, I would think, if you could hear from Fish and Wildlife, in a reasonable time frame. Maybe give them a letter from you, Mike, or from Warren, just indicating to Fish and Wildlife, you don't have to do this. It's just a matter of being polite to them. And that is giving them an indication, some deadline, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, that you'd like to make a secret determination. You're the lead agency. So if they have that deadline, then they have an indication they should get the letter in. If they don't choose to meet that, that's fine. You tried to get their response. You have more time after that, because the nice thing about this application, and I think I give credit to the town's committee that, worked on the solar application, although the state recommended for tier 3 in the state's model that it just be subject to site plan. What's written into your code is that it's subject to a special permit. And so if you hear later from Fish and Wildlife and there's something about their response you want to make sure is done, you just put it in as a condition of the special permit. So I think you're protected. So I think that the process would be, I actually think you're very close to being able to, with this information, at the board's discretion, of course, to, maybe next month to be able to close the public hearing and then make your determination of seeker significance.
Okay.
Great.
Anyone have any questions about that?
Did we publicize that we'd have a public hearing?
Well, that's
Getting a next meeting?
Warren, how does it usually go when we have this long drawn out public hearing? So next month, we would publicize that we're gonna be closing the public hearing.
Yeah.
And anyone who wants to get their final comments in.
Discuss that. I'm happy to write the letter to Fish and Wildlife. I just need to, someone can send me on all of the correspondence that we've had with Fish and Wildlife. I'll send them a letter. I agree with Frank. I think we're pretty close to chewing into the issue of reviewing the part 2 and making a determination of significance, or whether the draft environmental impact statement is needed. And the public needs to be able to see everything that has been submitted since the last public hearing. The visual impact, of course, is the most significant. So I would recommend that we set a date for the continuance of the public hearing and make that if we can, coordinate it with a close the public hearing, hopefully at that time, and then start the process of reviewing the part 2 of the EAF point by point. Frank and I discussed we should have an inventory of everything that we've received from the applicant that relates to each impact that identified in the part 2 would help us go through the analysis. And then ultimately the board will have to make at the close of the public hearing its determination of significance. This is an important project, so more than likely we would incorporate that into a fairly lengthy decision of the board with supporting documentation to demonstrate that the board's taken the requisite hard look at the environmental impacts. So we'll need some consultants will need some time to work on that. But we are, I think, moving towards the end of this aspect of the process. The applicant, I have to take a look at the forestry report again, but you're going to have to come to us with some kind of more specified proposal on what you're doing.
Sure.
And then it's a matter now, I think, of picking a date for the continuation and hopefully the close of the public hearing.
And Frank, you would be able to do that inventory? We're talking, who's doing that? You're doing that, right?
Yeah, I would, by the way, I do this in coordination with George, make sure that I have, and maybe Trish, make sure that I have everything. I think the documents and we can
Yeah.
review them with Andrew too. But then, as Warren said, just to be able to go through the part two with you, the focus would be on those items that we checked that might be a large item, which is, community character and visual. And with those in place, we'd be able to write up a part three, which is actually a determination of significance, evaluating those large impacts and why, by incorporating the measures submitted to you as part of the action, you'd be able to make, if you choose to, if you feel that those items are mitigated sufficiently, then you'd be able to make a negative declaration on this, which would end seeker, and then allow you, by ending seeker, it's not ending the approvals process, it's allowing you to then go in, I mean, the actual what requests they have to meet are the special permit and the site plan. So to get there, you need to make that determination of significance.
Okay. So you think we need to do a thing at the library again?
I
Probably,
think that this room is too small.
yeah, so we need,
But, we could utilize the library and make it a working session too, so that when we close the public hearing, we can start working on it.
yeah, and I have a conflict for the June meeting, I think. And I meant to check this too. But I'm pretty sure I'm no good on the 14th. Unless like you want to run the regular June meeting. We might have to move the June meeting to the 21st. But I just have to make sure that that was my impression.
What date were you talking about?
So first of all, the regular meeting, I have a conflict on the 14th of June. I think we have to move it to the 21st, but I meant to check before I came out, I just didn't have time. So does that work for you, Warren? Okay. So it's 1 week later on the Wednesday. And then to pick but I mean, that would make things simpler if we have this separated out, then we're working everything else during the regular meeting. And then we do this on a special meeting.
Hope I can get my calendar here.
June
what's-
21st is good for me.
Okay, all right, so that's just for the regular meeting, Frank, but we're gonna look for a Saturday for to close the public hearing and working session.
Okay.
What's up, Vicky? You know something?
Can't do it. Women's graduation.
You don't doing those anymore, right? No.
Should have brought my
Friday.
paper calendar.
So looking at the 17th, should we do it the 10th?
This is,
Close the public meeting.
Yeah, to do
The
to
17th.
close the public, you want the 17th?
That would
Yeah.
Give a little more time to get something from Fish and Wildlife.
All right,
you know.
so 10:30.
What are we talking about? What date now?
Now we're talking about to have the library event would be on Saturday, June 17th.
okay.
Not available.
You're not.
At 10:30, and that would be a special meeting
And
and a public hearing.
right, closing, yeah, special, what did you call it? A working session and closing of the public hearing.
Yeah, close the public hearing, and then you would have you would call a special meeting, so we had a public hearing, and I have to just confirm that tomorrow morning, because I'm not getting my calendar on it,
Right.
so.
You're looking at the 17th?
Yes, how's that for you, Frank?
Well, it's not, it's
good?
not great for me, I'll be honest. I'm going to, I'm flying back that night, Friday night on a red eye from Portland, Oregon. My wife and I were visiting our daughter.
Well, that's not good.
I've been through that.
I'd be a little dreary eyed.
Couple of Red Bulls, you'll be all right.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Fourth is probably graduation day, but
You think it has to be on a Saturday again?
we could do it on a weekend. Why not do it on a weekend?
I'm gonna, how about? I mean, should we just have the meeting on the 21st at the library and see if we can do that? I don't know. I'm gonna have to check with Amanda and find out what the library availability is.
So June 21st is what, is a Saturday?
No, we were saying if we were to just go with a Wednesday night.
Yeah, that sounds a little better. I think that works for me.
People are coming.
That worked for Frank. We need to have Frank do.
Yeah, what date again, are you looking at now for the evening meeting?
All right, the 21st of June is when we have to move. I don't know. I kind of wanted to separate out because this is gonna be so long and we have all these other applications. I don't think we can do both. I
What
don't think
about
we can.
Saturday, June 10th? Is that a possibility?
That's 30 days from tonight. Works for me. More importantly.
I think that is, I mean, it's a possibility for me. We were just trying to give as much time.
June 10th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
When's Memorial Day what's the weekend? That's the big, yeah, I'm gonna be away for that. But that's-
No,
that's-
Memorial Day is the 29th of May. So that's,
So, yeah, because we're gonna be away, yeah, June 10th would, I think works for me. Works for me.
all right. So
June
10:30. So I guess I
10:30.
need,
Saturday, 10:30, the library?
yes, can I have a motion to set up a special hearing? Special meeting, close the public hearing and the workshop.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
To confirm, that's Saturday, 10th at.
10:30 a.m. at the library.
And everybody-
Hopefully it's ready. Hopefully it's available. I think. Brian, did you go check? Where did he go? I think he went to go look. Pending the availability of the library. Because obviously it's not our space.
Sounds like you, George, are okay?
Yep. No, we changed now. The 10th, the Saturday, the 10th. Yeah, at 10:30 in the morning. Sorry, Ron. John, what's
I
that?
just had a question, is that I didn't find the glare study in the planning board folder. Is it in there? I've missed things before, so.
We'll make sure.
Okay,
So Trish, make sure it's in there.
okay.
That's good. Okay.
All right, so. That's,
Thank you, Brian.
That's good.
Library.
So Saturday, June 10th, 10:30,
Yes.
community center.
Yeah.
Above the line.
Pack a lunch.
Back away.
Can we have it catered?
Yeah.
Talk to the applicant.
I don't think that's.
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's not even close.
So thank you, Frank, and thank you,
Okay.
Matthew.
Yep.
Thank you, Andrew. We know we have our roadmap here, what we need.
Very good.
Oh, so what's, you have a question?
It's the deep, it's the.
I'll follow up there.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm good, thank you guys.
All right, next up,
Okay.
we have Scene Properties. Wesley.
Good evening, everybody, how are you?
By the way, is it Scene, like, how do you guys just say Scene, or what are we supposed to be calling this?
CEEN.
Oh, just.
I think it's got to do with the first letter of the names of the children of the two owners. That's correct?
Correct.
Nice.
I was very confused by it.
So to remind everyone who's watching or here, this is regards to the marijuana processing warehouse in the light industrial section. where we previously approved an equipment storage facility, formerly the Dillinger's Farm. Dairy barn, whatever. Okay, so we had some things that Warren was waiting for from you guys. Did we get everything? No. What was, did you get to look at what was sent to you?
I did.
Okay, there was some things from the state. What was missing from that?
It's just a location request form. That's all I got. For JRS Naturals. And
There wasn't,
no updated site plan, no, I don't see a site plan. Operation plan, and what was sent says that the authorization, to the extent that you have authorization, expires on June 1st, 2023. I'm confused.
So we did a change of use form. The original site was in Hudson.
I see
To
that.
do the change of use form, they required a sketch schematic of the building, which was attached to the email that was sent to Trish, Michael, that I would think that got forwarded to you, which would have been in addition to the form that you're looking at now. Also a request by the company for information that from New York State Cannabis Oversight, stating that that location had been approved by them at one of the sites. I mean, the only other thing that we can do is FOIL request every single paper that was submitted.
But what about this, Warren saying that it showed that it was expiring?
Yeah, I don't understand this. Says authorization expires on June 1st, 2023. After that date, AUCC license is seeking to process and distribute cannabis products will be required to apply for and receive a processor and distributor license. You don't have.
Do you have any knowledge of that, Gary?
It's due to be renewed. The state is just waiting till the date comes and then they're going to renew it. They haven't notified anyone yet. They're waiting. They're in the process of still working through all the rules and regulations. And that's not finalized. So they're waiting for that process to be done before they renew.
Do you have a contact at that board? The
Office of Cannabis Management.
Yeah, who do you have a contact that you're dealing with there?
We just send into a general email and
Oh, so you don't have a contact.
not directly, no.
Warren, how can we somehow speak to, can
You
you?
can, I'm not signing off on it.
No, but can you speak to someone from, do you have a
Me?
way of, yeah, you,
Why should I? Why?
Can I ask the board a question?
Yeah.
We have documentation from a New York State licensing board that we currently have an approved site at this site. And it's from New York State. I'm submitting a site plan to do a change of use in a building, to do something that is legal and corresponds with a town comprehensive plan. It corresponds with our town zoning, and I can go through any hoops that you want, but I believe that this should be an easy process. When I was with Frank and we were talking about, we want to make things easier on the applicant. This type of stuff is not making things easier.
right, but Wesley, you gotta understand, this is something that we've never dealt with before. It's brand new for the state in general. You're not, making widgets. It's like this new thing. I know it is still just manufacturing. That's how we're considering it the use. But we do have this additional layer to make sure is proper with the proper authorizations from the state board. I keep calling it board. What is it? Cannabis
Office of
Control,
Cannabis Management.
Office of Cannabis Management.
But I'm hearing Wesley saying you have that.
We,
But-
sent the
We have
license.
the approval.
The approval, which is expiring on June 1st. So I mean, I guess we can make it a pending. So Warren, is the issue that, what,
I don't know
where,
what the issue is. I mean,
where are your,
drips and drabs of documentation, and I think I made it clear what I needed, but I still haven't gotten it. But then this comes in and then tells me that the,
That was supplied to you last month. And 3 weeks before the meeting.
Yeah.
okay, all right,
well, it
Wesley.
doesn't matter.
All right, guys, we're not gonna have an argument, all right?
I don't care when it was. submitted,
Gentlemen,
but it says
gentlemen.
It expires.
Glad you.
June 1st.
Warren, Wesley, please stop. Wesley? Please, no. So I just want to hear from Warren, what issue, so you feel that you're missing the details of what they submitted to get the approval, what are you missing exactly? I understand
Did anybody else read this stuff besides me?
yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And nobody else has any trouble with any of this?
well, the obviously the date of expiration
Right.
is a problem.
Yeah, that's the biggest red flag.
What, and what do
So
you,
let's deal with that first. What happens after June 1st?
I would like to continue the application with the conception that after June 1st, that they'll have legal representation there. And that we can move forward. We're not even gonna have a public hearing until then, correct? I mean, that happens. So can we move the process along, figure that out? Because I don't know that off of my head. I'm not a professional in the cannabis management. I think it's something probably simple, just like a change of use form, just like we are gonna re-up our license at that.
well, can somebody,
And actually, can I just point out that that isn't specifically to our company. It's
Could you move up a little
Yeah.
closer instead of?
that date is for every single cultivation license that they issue. 250 licenses. We're one of them. Everybody
So this is one of these things.
Gets to have to be renewed on that date. And they're in the process of making the rules and regulations.
What license do you have now?
A conditional.
Cultivator.
All the ones that were
So this
emailed to
says
you.
after
by the state.
June 1st, you then have to have a processor and distributor license. It's not.
We have one right now and it was emailed to you by the New York State Cannabis Law and it would be in the email that everybody at this table got.
Okay.
Show it to me.
The email, give me access.
Show it to me.
Give
All
me
right,
access. to the
gentlemen.
email.
Because I'm
Gentlemen.
fed up with it.
Okay, so Tricia, can you
Can
pull
you,
that document up, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
What, do you know the title of the email that was on, Wesley?
What's up?
Do you know the title of that email?
Yes, and it was the first email that was sent to Trish. That was a forward email straight from the New York Cannabis.
But pulling up the email or the.
Well, do you have the document?
Yes.
Just pull it up, yeah.
Which
I
one
have
is it?
a question. Could
The-
you explain who JRS Naturals is? Because that's the name on the, as the licensee, but I thought your company was called Alchemy Pure.
JRS Naturals is my company. That's what I have the cultivation license in. And Chris Regan has a company called SKX LLC. Those two cultivation licenses are cultivating in the same area in Boston Corner.
All I know is.
We are combining under the brand
Email to
name
you.
of Alchemy Pure.
So.
The combination of those two licenses.
So I'm just curious why
Email.
none of these names appear on
That was
the
a forward.
environmental
which was
assessment
on a-
form. The applicant is still Wesley.
The applicant is Scene Properties.
It's
Yeah,
not-
that's the one
it's
that
not,
I currently has, yeah.
it's in Wesley's name.
No, that's not.
Sorry. No, it says.
Scene Properties is the landlord.
And I've been asking for
We're-
the
I'm curious
operating
if you know the
plan
name of them.
since day one on this.
Can we send you that?
Where is?
Is it one of these ones?
Oh, that's yeah, those are the two certificates of licensees. The one, then that was submitted. I'm also,
Right.
well, there was also an email that came right from New York State about everything that was licensed with the address. Also, one of the things that was submitted that I received today was the security plan that was gonna be needed, which I have a copy of here. Which I'm happy to submit into the file as well.
The. First one? Well. No.
Am I pull up any Wesley CVs? Site plan checklist scan. What's this? Wesley, is this it? It's like 20 pages? Or is that different?
Oh, that's the one that Warren currently has,
Okay.
but it would be the email that was sent to you and Trish.
Just came.
No, it's gonna be the one before that, I believe.
Was it just an email?
Yeah, see, that's a forward directly from the Office of Cannabis Management, showing that they have the,
So this is what you're talking about?
Yes.
This? All right, so it is just the email. Is it actually, it's a forward of an email. And the title of it is forward approval for location change request. So that's why it's not a document.
the original documents submitted for that approval request Warren has. That is the actual documentation that the approval has happened and it has been granted.
But yeah, we just got that email left, right? I remember
No,
seeing
it was
that.
like last, it was a,
Friday. Yeah, I mean, like, we got it previously.
yeah. That came on.
First.
Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah.
It came to Wesley, which one?
You have like a letter from them? As opposed to an email?
I mean, I provided 2 certificates from the Office of.
Yeah, they're doing it by email. It's sort of like, oh, anybody could have made that email up and said. Here it is.
The email
But I
doesn't
understand, it's
refer
not your
to
fault.
a
It's
particular.
not you who
company.
made that. That's the way they operate.
Office
So the
and
email-
committee-
Casual marijuana people.
The email doesn't have the, so the email doesn't have the name of a company though.
It has what is SKX LLC?
That's Chris Reagan's.
We have 2 cultivation licenses, JRS Naturals and SKX LLC.
All right, so that's in there. It mentions SKX LLC.
Right, but the other certificate is in the name of JRS.
Let me look at the one.
Very.
Two, which is him.
Yeah, but why? But why is the difference?
You mean why the two different licensed organizations?
Yeah, but they're not both mentioned here. Why is one mentioned and one's
But it refers to the Boston Corners, which is
right?
Jerry's thing.
Each license will receive one of those.
Church Street, storage, minimal processing and packaging.
You want
The actual application. that I sent.
Can you look these up?
first one?
No,
No. Second one?
SK
This one? On the 21st.
Yeah. That's.
No, it came on Monday. It came to, well, it came to them on the 21st.
Oh, yeah, I knew it.
Someone who has a computer. And you doing something? Can you go to the cannabis board? And is there a way to look up
Certificates.
a license? Can you do a license search on the cannabis board?
We have a copy of the license, I just saw it in your file. The copy of our licenses are in there.
Yeah, I
I
have,
saw it under
I
there.
have it. What I don't have is the operation and the maintenance plan and all of the stuff that I've been asking from day one. Which the board would have to incorporate into any decision to approve it, I don't have it. And then I don't.
What was that, Warren? The operation plan you're saying?
I
remember, I
asked for the operation.
So we have the licenses for JRS Naturals. And SKC LLC. We have an updated site plan.
Where is the site plan that's approved? Stamped by the Office of Cannabis Management, where is that? We sent that.
That was attached to the other email, and then this
Show-
has the
show-
approval
so I
of
can see.
location.
I want to see the stamp of approval.
It was on the one that had like an example, and then theirs followed it.
Oh, okay.
Is
Yeah.
that this one? Yeah,
This one.
Those
So
are
that's an
examples, that's
example,
not the site.
right.
but if you keep going. Or was it on the next attachment? It was hand,
Well, let's
Drawn.
let's look through this. Is that it? All right, so then,
That's one. That's been approved by Office of Cannabis Management. Yeah.
this is your place here, this,
No, that was an
That's an
example of
example.
what's required
so,
today.
so go back to this,
theirs, yours is like
That's
attached.
attached to
Oh,
this email.
Okay. This-
no. What is it called? JRS.
Oh,
Church
got that
Journal
one,
Premises
okay.
map.
Yeah.
Wesley Chase.
Is that, is this what you're talking about, Kate?
Ah, so this is,
So
so
that
this
was what
came,
was submitted as the site plan to New York State Cannabis.
okay,
To get the change of address use. And that's what was asked, was the things that were submitted. The only way to get everything that was submitted for Warren would to be FOIL request. My comment to the board is, do we need to FOIL request everything that was submitted? Or is the knowledge that we have a existing approved site subject by New York State?
so Wesley, this is just what you submitted to them?
That
To
was
get the approval.
to
Right.
Change.
pull the.
And then they just sent,
Space.
and then they just sent back that email.
Yes, that it was
correct.
approved.
So, if they won't, I
I've
mean,
never seen anything like it.
but I mean, what,
Yeah, but
They
they
signed
got
off on it?
approval.
yeah,
Well, it's up to you. You're the board. You want to go forward with this, you go.
But I mean, if-
I am not.
Sure,
if
what
the
you're-
state, if the state won't provide,
It's your responsibility.
Warren, if the state won't provide something, what are we
I don't know
supposed to do?
But Michael, this is a
what
different,
they
this is a
provide.
different number. This is JRS and that's 00085 and the email refers to 00086 SKX. So these are the two different entities. So we have approval, not for
Right.
that, but for a
Right, yes.
different.
Another issue.
But there's nothing on there that indicates that it's been approved.
It's in an
email.
email.
Rather than ask for a different number.
Correct, Warren, you are correct. There's nothing actually on that sketch. They did not send back the sketch. They just sent back an email saying that this address is approved. And in the email, pull up that email, please, Tricia.
It refers to a different number than that.
It refers to the same address, but a different LLC and a different license number.
We have approval for both licenses.
So we would need, you need to forward us the email that says 0085 is also approved to change location or to include this location.
So that you got an
This one
approval
was
for
just-
both?
Yeah,
This one was
Okay.
just sent to Chris, so did you get one sent?
I
to
did, yeah.
you? Okay, so you need to forward that.
It's from Wesley. Or did I forward it to you?
What?
No, I'm talking to Tricia.
What they did come in.
It came in on
Oh, it's
Monday.
this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what the state sent to
I
them.
saw that, yeah.
Do you know if you forwarded that one?
I saw that email, yeah, that's the only thing I
Yeah,
see.
for JRS, did you?
Of someone,
I can find it. I don't.
but this application should be put together properly with the correct name, with the licenses. I mean, we've never dealt with this before. And it's up to the board. If you want to go forward with this, you're gonna have a public hearing, but I'm not comfortable with it.
I would make the comment that the application is for the owners of the building to have a manufacturing thing. I understand it's the board's concern, what will be manufactured in the building. But in the same sense, we're not disturbing a sand stone of soil on site. We are not changing anything but the interior of the building. And anything that was found to be any kind of environmental thing was the smell, which we've gave you exactly how to mitigate that with a certain scrubber, carbon scrubbers. I understand that you feel that I haven't put the application together properly, but what I will tell you is is that, when I read New York State law, I don't believe a New York State long form is even required. and
Wes,
used.
we're
I
not
don't-
going back and re-litigating that. We wanted the law form to make sure that we had everything covered. This is brand new for the board, it's brand new for the state. And at the time, there was also water, the whole water thing that you guys were talking about doing. As now, with
All right,
Vicky,
so
yes.
a question.
Yes,
There are two separate licenses for this business. So it would seem to me if we could get just all we would need is this, is the other, you had to submit another drawing, right? Another sketch?
Well, it's the same sketch. to
It's the
both-
same sketch.
For both licenses. For both
It's
names.
the same thing, yeah.
We need the email that Jerry got.
Yeah, all the license, all the LLC names and all the licenses
So
have to
only
match. We
one-
can't be just.
All right, so only one sketch was sold. Only one sketch was sent to New York State. Correct? Wesley?
SKX LLC has the right to.
Okay, but what, Wesley, what about the other entity? What
What about-
JRS? What- National. Right, where is that? Where's that one?
Do we need?
I have it.
He said he has it.
Oh, please forward it to us.
So if he has it and he sends it to us, does that make it better? I mean, does that
Well,
make it simpler? I mean,
I don't know, I'm still concerned about what happens after June first,
well,
but
so were all the other two
But we
hundred
can
and
make that-
fifty applications.
Additional.
They're all gonna be in
Yes.
the
you're
same.
gonna, by the time you set it down for the public hearing, I'll go, I think it's fine.
Yeah, so let's forward that, please.
Order that to
Yeah.
the planning board.
Planning board at pineplains-ny.gov.
But this is the exact point I made last month, and sounds like what Warren's saying. The Office of Cannabis Management does not have their act together, because they're sending an email from God knows who about this, beside the fact that there's two different entities sharing the location, two different LLCs, whatever. That's not a you issue by any means.
Three different entities.
Three
Because you've got
entities.
part of the building is being used for another use.
Okay, but I mean, they don't have to worry about that. That's just for us to worry about.
Well, I don't know what cannabis management has, because I don't see anything. You know, we deal with state agencies all the time.
They just return
You
an
submit
email.
documents, you get them stamped,
There's
and then
no
we see
second.
the approval.
This is the new way.
They're doing it by
They're
email.
just emailing.
I mean, what else are they supposed to do? Like, if
That's all they do is
anyone can
email.
print out a piece of paper that says you have.
They're horrible. You don't even get an account number.
Hey, take some from it, Doc, about that.
And from day one, I've been asking for the operation and maintenance plan. I still haven't seen that.
I've not heard that we needed an operation or maintenance plan until you said it tonight, Warren.
You know,
Yeah,
the
for that.
Had to get
thing-
submitted to the.
We did that, yeah.
Yeah.
The first thing I asked for when he came on the.
Okay,
agenda.
it's
So-
what's not important who asked for what when, it's important what we need to go forward.
Right.
Okay. Yes, Vicky, you. want to-
No. So if we could get that plan, this has been forwarded now, the second one has been forwarded.
Let me suggest that this is not my responsibility. It's not George's responsibility. It's not the planning board's responsibility. It's the applicant's responsibility. You can see how an application should be submitted through the Carson, as exemplified by Carson Powers application. It has to be done professionally, and all the documents have to be in order, and they have to be identifiable, and they have to relate to the project, and they have to reflect what's required from by the law. This is from day one. That's what all I have been asking for, if you want me to sign off on this thing.
With all due respect, I sent the planning board a letter with everything that had to do with in the zoning code with this application and submitted all documents that were on the checklist and in the documents. Just because a town attorney who is a
Wesley, that's
representative
not,
is asking for more
Not helpful.
to see the oversight of New York cannabis management. I don't believe that that's the fault of the applicant.
No.
And that's,
we need to understand as a board that the state has given the proper approvals and what we need for what we need to take into account for this. And that checklist thing was good, right? There was all those items that they look at.
Ethan has a question.
But
If I can interrupt.
go ahead.
So another thing that I didn't notice before, which Helen mentioned the different licenses, 0000085 and 86, but there's another one, 000128, which is listed to 508 County Route 3. So between the two of you, do you hold 3 licenses?
No, 2.
So then what's that number?
What is it? 00.
No idea.
000128.
And what is that on? Is that the other? Is that the
Adult
cultivation?
use conditional cultivator license location request form,
Can I see it?
that form. So this is where they have all their addresses listed. And this is predominantly.
Location shared with another license.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is predominantly the 086 through this entire.
You want to
form.
see that? Joe?
Okay. Heather, there you go, Scott. So it's the second one down listed on County Route 3. Most of the license numbers on that document are quadruple 086.
Yeah.
Which I don't know which of you has that one, but regardless.
That's correct.
Well, if the Office of Cannabis Management will not supply something like you're describing, like if they just won't do it. Like, where does that leave the applicant? I mean, they're gonna come back to us. I'm not saying that is the case, but they'll come back to us and say they won't give us anything. This is what they give us. But we won't, that's why I was saying if we could
I don't know
talk
that
to
that's-
somebody
Do
there.
we know that that's the case?
We don't, but we don't know either way, right? We don't know. So, because, you know, it would be nice if we could hear from somebody from there or somebody who is familiar with their process. But I mean, you're not even familiar.
We already got, they like gave their application.
Well, that's what I was asking. I was asking for you to do that before.
No, I'm not.
You won't, you don't want to.
I did contact, but
Oh, you
the
did?
applicant, they won't give me the applicant has to get that information.
But so okay.
Didn't they already give us their application and they were approved and their change of address? And so I don't understand.
Yes,
what
we
else. What else are we looking for? And their application had all of those things on it. It had a business.
Well, obviously they have to cure the.
This is my
the
email from
differences.
April 12th. And I sent this to Frank Fish, and I sent a copy to you. Attached are the most recent submissions from SEEM. Also attached are the guidance materials from the Office of Cannabis Management for conditional cultivators license. I asked Trish to ask the applicant to provide me with the application documentation submitted to OCM in conjunction with their license application, including their operating plan and site plan, but we haven't received anything yet. We still haven't received anything yet.
We have the site.
Well, we have the site plan he's providing us, but you're asking for some sort of stamped site.
Yeah,
I mean, we have this site
We have
plan.
this site plan as well.
yeah, that's what he submitted to the board. I
Right.
don't know it was submitted to Office of Cannabis Management and has been approved by them.
Right.
It has, because you've seen the emails approving it.
If somebody comes in for a retail license for a cannabis facility, you're gonna go through the same thing.
So you didn't print or save your application before you hit submit.
No, it all goes in.
I know you
Yeah.
fill in the little boxes. I'm doing
Right.
a grant that's due tomorrow. and it's really horrible. And my dad has raised it 4 times. But, like I printed out each.
I just feel like this is a manufacturing building and it is for peanut butter and they're packaging peanut butter, we're going for a change of use in our town zoning plan. Right now, we're going for a change of use, we're asking for waivers, but it happens to be a cannabis thing. Does cannabis change the reflection of the board so that we need every single document that's ever been submitted? Are we gonna do the same thing for a peanut butter license?
No, it changes the notion because New York State does not have an office of peanut butter management. They have an office of cannabis
But if
management.
they did,
If they did, then that would be a whole different ballgame. So
We definitely need.
it's gonna be more involved.
Like to answer your question about the
Back to
other
the
license,
license.
yeah, so after we moved out of our Hudson location.
Uh-huh.
We were looking for a temporary location, which we rented from another operator
In Akron.
who has that license,
Okay,
and so we
That's
rented a space from them. And that's why their license number's on that as well.
gotcha.
But just listed as that you're associated with.
Yes, that was the association, is that we were renting a space from them on their property, yeah.
But the biggest problem is that, like, the whole public meeting thing, public hearing. Because if you can get these things, then we'd have to schedule a public hearing, and then we're talking July. Even if they get the things for Warren. But I mean, I don't know. And we got you.
Could
I
you
feel
get the
like I would-
operation and management statement? And review it before we have a public hearing? at
Yeah,
the
I
next
mean, I
meeting?
feel like we put this off like.
Yeah.
I think we should move it.
So Warren, we can't just work on this. We can't set a public hearing for
We've
next.
been working on it, we still.
I understand.
It's up to you, do you do?
Yeah, we can do both.
I
I
leave it to
say
your,
schedule
in
a
your
public
hand.
hearing and get the application, get a copy of the application.
This is not an insignificant use. I know the applicant is stating that it is, but it's a cannabis manufacturing site. We had some questions as to whether it's even permitted under our zoning. We've allowed that to move forward. But you can't move forward with an application like this with this type of material. It's, and I've been asking for this from day one. I have a number of emails asking for your operating plan. I haven't seen that.
Okay. So what, just so,
Because you have to incorporate that in,
Right.
you are licensing for that site a facility that's licensed by the Office of Cannabis Management. So all the requirements from the state have to be incorporated in your decision-making process.
so the operation and maintenance plan. Some better documentation of the approval / site plan from that office. What else?
The other license.
I think the applicant needs to do a project
They
narrative
forwarded that.
explaining the history of this application and the licensing, who's involved, what they're applying for.
So a
what they
narrative.
have been approved,
So a
and what
narrative.
approval they're seeking from the town board. But I want to see that operating plan, which I've been asking for since day one.
But that, you want to, so rather than applying claims for something, you want to see our application to the state
Correct.
to operate as a cannabis operation.
Well, we want to see the,
Yes.
you want the application or well, they said it's just online, so there is no physical application. Right, they just went online and.
Keep a copy of what you submitted to.
No.
I thought at the last meeting, especially with my letter that was submitted with the application, that there was a pretty good narrative in there. Frank Fish mentioned that when we did the full EAF, he would like to see that narrative incorporated into the EAF along with the waiver requests and the full EAF form. It was done, and there's a pretty good narrative at the end of that, which is 2 pages long. I'm not sure if Warren has had time to review that yet.
I reviewed everything that you submitted.
All right, so the narrative, we'll make sure the narrative is there. Where was that on the end of
It was the original letter that was submitted with the application, and then it was revised to add it to the EAF as Frank Fish had.
So,
Talk about that?
Yep.
Okay. It's on the end of the resubmitted EAF.
Oh, we've just-
So, okay, so let's set this. So Warren, if we get to next month, we've set a public hearing and then we realize that there's a problem. What, is there any recourse that, can we just say, forget the public hearing this month or what, or?
We set it down for a public hearing.
Okay, we can do that. All right, so can I have a motion to set a public hearing? Oh, by the way, remember, it's for the 21st. Hopefully I'm right about that. I'm pretty sure, at 7:30. Here.
So moved.
So when is the public hearing?
The 21st.
The 21st.
I had to move the next meeting to the
To the
21st.
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 Yes. All in favor?
Alright,
All opposed? All right, Helen?
Yeah, I just have a question that, because at the end of the narrative,
Yes.
in this narrative.
Yes.
There isn't, I think what's confusing us all is that there are two different companies. And there's JRS and there's SLX, I think, and then there's Alchemy, with three companies. And it's unclear what the relationship is between those companies and what the licenses that you've received. One of them is for SLX, I think. You said you just said the one for.
SLX?
SK.
SK, okay, I didn't know if there was another one. I was making sure.
What you're looking for is to clean up the narrative, so the licensing is easily.
I mean, I think it's just,
figured out.
I mean, maybe just trying to understand what the relationship is between the licensees and this company, Alchemy Pure.
Yep.
And
Words and maybe even make a diagram, like this is here and this has a license at this location.
I love diagrams.
Yeah, there you go.
the other thing
And
was
then
that,
address what happens after June 1st.
and
How
maybe,
This all changes.
Well, maybe something on the website that says either they're automatically renewed, you know. I think like a trailer license or a registration, they all expire in December every year. So just the way it is. It's not,
Okay.
you know, individual, they all expire in,
Right.
you know, December.
Yeah.
Same thing with these.
and then I
There's
think,
something that explains that they all expire in June and they'll be automatically renewed.
No, it's a different license. So after June 1st, they require a different license,
Well.
Hold on, I'm just writing a note.
right? No?
They said that a year ago, but because they haven't finished the rules and regulations,
All right.
there are no, the type of licenses they said that we'd have to have. They haven't created them yet. So they're gonna do more conditional cultivation.
Yeah,
They're gonna extend it.
okay.
so I think the other question which.
They're building the plane as they're flying it. That's what-
Yeah, I mean,
And what's that?
I feel your pain, but the problem is we have to approve this.
What's one second, Helen?
Well, I just was wondering why, because at the last meeting we had,
The application name,
yeah, I think
Sponsor.
Warren had asked who the applicant was, because it's not.
let me ask the board, would you rather the applicant be the company that's gonna inhabit the space? Or do you want the applicant as the owner of the building? What would make the board?
It's usually the entity that's doing it, and then you need the form that gives you the right to represent the owners.
Right, I have that as the applicant and the right to represent the owner, because I was unsure whether it should be the owner or whether the entity, and I'm happy to redo those forms, get them to you quickly, depending on who you would like it to be. If you want it to be
The
the,
licensee.
The licensee, yeah, not the owner of the building. The owner of the building, you just like if anyone was gonna buy a place, you know, you get this form filled out, they can, you know. All right, we gotta move on to the next thing. Well,
One thing,
Oh.
I'm the owner of the building, will my building be denied from manufacturing, or can my building then go into manufacturing? Do we have to reapply for manufacturing?
manufacturing
That's like
what?
the big-
What do you mean?
Well, we're trying to just get it to meet the new zoning laws, like. in
So right
manufacturing.
now you're approved for equipment storage.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're asking for another use to be added, which is
Change of
manufacturing.
use is what I'm saying to you.
Yes, correct. An additional use. We're not changing the whole building because you're keeping the other thing.
No.
So you're asking for additional use at that location, which is manufacturing
Correct.
of, and what's complicating things is that it's of cannabis.
And I understand
Right.
that, and, but I just need to know for my own good, is it,
If you were making,
I'm kind of.
if you
in a
were
bad
making
spot
like,
now.
you know, machine parts or something like that,
That would be
then
okay.
this is okay also, just we have to make sure all the ducks are in a row.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes. it wouldn't have this extra layer of worrying about what the state licensing of the manufacturer is. Same thing like if we did,
Who I can target for tenant, if it's.
right, like it's same thing if we were dealing with whatever, something like, we had somebody come to us once who wanted to had FFL, he wanted to be a gun salesman in his, out of his house, so like, we have to make sure those licenses are in order before we can say, yes, we can do this here, even though if it's allowed in the zone. Anyway, so we gotta, okay,
So it kind of pause because of the can, but that's what you're.
it's just, we have to make sure we have all of we set a public hearing for next month, if we get everything ducks in the row before then. It'll go fairly quickly after that, as long as no issue and the board agrees and there's no issues that come up in the public hearing. It's like. Okay, next item up. Stissing Center, who's here, Doug?
Brett's
I'm here and Brett.
Oh, Brett, there you go.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm actually going to turn most of this over to Doug. We come before you this evening with site plan amendments. Basically, it is all the work that remains to be done on the building. Doug and his team have worked to delineate what's already been previously approved and then what needs new approval. In addition to what you have there, I did email Trish, it came up before, which is we're also asking for an extension on the temporary roof. That is there until we are able to move forward with construction, which we hope will be in September or October. Obviously, the roof would need to come down if we put up scaffolding to deal with the roof. So Doug can address the specifics of the drawings and stuff that he sent to you.
Wait,
And-
what would have to come down if you have to put up temporary?
roof. Yeah, so I'll let Doug address the drawings to you in more specificity, but I'm here to answer what few questions I can since Doug's the expert. Sorry, I couldn't be there in person. Let me just remind everybody that we came to the planning board in 2016 with the entire project. And after much fanfare, we got the building open, but we didn't have enough money to finish it, as you all know. And then we came back in 2018 when the property next door was acquired and we wanted to relocate some of the site utilities. So we did a site plan review update in 18. And then we were just recently in front of you in October of 22 for an additional site plan review, which was to get some ADA parking spaces behind the house on the property we had acquired and some lighting. So it was 5 small things, which was approved after a public hearing. At that time, the planning board asked us just to come back about our plans for the lower level, because the lower level had previously been requested a community room, but we would like to expand that into a venue, slightly larger room, and move some of the functions into the rear addition. And also, since the 2016 approval, the zoning setbacks have changed in this district. So we originally were required to have a 40-foot rear yard setback, but it has now been reduced to 20 feet, which helps us because our previous plans were quite tortured to go along with the angled setback. So is it all right if I share screen and I can show you a little bit of our history here? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll start with, let's see. Sorry, this is our original site plan before we purchased the property next door. And you can see the setback line here. Let's see, I'll just draw it in red. That's the 40-foot setback that we were designing to in 2016. And then we came before you, all of this was approved. We noticed we had some two ADA parking spaces in the back, which we're proposing to put in the back in slightly different arrangement. And then we came before you when we acquired this property in 2018 and moved some of our utilities. And then we were most recently before you in 22, as I said, to put some parking here and move more of our utilities and do some site lighting. Now, since this time, Brett has come on as executive director. We also got a substantial donation from a major philanthropist with a matching grant. So since we came to you in October, we've actually, we may actually have the funds to keep going. So we're coming again to ask for the rest, which would be basically this newer footprint, which is number 5. If you look at the narrative, this is really the reason we're coming. The main reason we're coming. The setback is now here, 20 feet off the rear lot line. So we have, we're starting to redesign the rear addition, so it's simpler to build. We're proposing to move the 2 ADA parking spaces to the rear. So we would actually have 4. The 2 that you approved in October would be to get to the ADA entrance here. We have a lift there, which really goes only to 3 levels, the lower level, the grade level, and the auditorium. And we would have an additional 2 spaces back here because we would, in order to use the upper floor of the building, we need this elevator. So these 2 spots would be to enter the building at the rear and use the upper floors of the building.
So you'd be looking for a variance?
No variance. There's no variance required. The setbacks have been relaxed at 20 feet. So this is totally as of right. It's just not what we showed you in 2016. So we followed our application follows the formula. What we've done before is we put this dotted line around the things that are different. So I can walk you through each one of those things that are in the narrative. I just wanted to set the stage here for why we're coming back. So the rear addition can be a slightly different shape, and we can rearrange the parking. We would also like to finish the front steps. So we would like to do a graphics wall. As many of you know, right now it's a temporary piece of plywood painted gray, and we're just putting signs up for the shows that are coming up. So we'd like to do that. We also have to relocate a propane tank, which is now in the rear of the building right here. So that's what the site plan shows here. Let's see, the next page are the plans of the building showing what's different from prior approvals. So anything that was priorly approved is in gray. Anything that's different this time is in this dotted line. So I'll start at the bottom, which is down here. The foundations for this rear addition will be slightly larger and square instead of zigzaggy as they were before. So we're showing a mechanical, an elevator, and a fire stair back here. You know, we can't use the top floor of the building without the fire stair and the elevator. Here's the revised lower level with a larger venue space rather than a community room. We're just calling it a public assembly space. And here is a kitchen that we would like to do, which is slightly larger than the kitchen you saw in 2016. The difference is there were some dressing rooms down here, which we've decided to move into the rear addition. It makes much more sense to have them back there now that we've got the extra 20 feet. So the functions at grade would be the wall I was talking about, the graphics wall along the steps. And in the rear, we would have a rear lobby for people coming in to take the elevator up to the top floor primarily. But this elevator actually would need to stop on 7 levels because we have so many levels in the building. And it also would allow us to load the stage, get up to the dressing rooms, stop at the kitchen level, and the gallery level in the auditorium. If you've been in there, you know there's at least 3 levels in the auditorium itself, the stage, the gallery, and the floor. So by putting an elevator back here with 7 stops, we can serve every floor in the building. Between this elevator and the front ADA elevator, which is already installed, most of the building is accessible. So this is a redesign of the lobby. Currently, the laundromat is down here under the stage. That space in a performing arts venue is normally what's called a green room, which is where the performers or the people appearing in the whatever activity is in the auditorium wait until it's time to go up to the stage. So we would like to put a green room below the stage where the laundromat is now. However, the organization is committed to keeping the laundromat functional until we could possibly relocate it to another site, and Brett might talk about that a little bit later. The next level up is the backstage area. If you've been in the building, you know that the back wall of the stage, the brick wall, is the back of the building. There's no way to get from stage left to stage right without being seen by the audience. So we would, part of our rear addition is backstage functions, a crossover, loading for the stage, the fire exit, and this egress from the auditorium. So the next level up is, there's a mezzanine level, which overlooks the back of the auditorium, which we previously called for offices, the offices of the assisting center staff, but we thought that it might be better to have extra space for meetings and functions that could overlook the room, as well as a little projection booth. So we're sort of replanning what happens on that mezzanine. There's no outward effect of this change. This would be the dressing area. So this level is in the rear addition here, above the backstage, but below the access to the attic. So it's this extra floor we picked up when we made this footprint a little bigger, where we could put the dressing rooms now and get them out of the basement where they were in the 2016 filing. It makes much more sense for them to be backstage here, that who's ever preparing to appear would just run down a flight of stairs and they could immediately enter from stage right or stage left. So that's a new floor that previously was shown as mechanical. So now the attic, the upper floor, the rear tower with the elevator and the staircase is, as I said, is required by code in order to use this floor. So these two things stop on a little lobby floor, and we would enter the attic, which is quite spacious, from the rear. And this is where some Stissing Center offices would be. This is where incubator office space would be, which is part of the organization's mission from the beginning. And we have a donor who's endowed a gallery space for his collection and for visiting artists. So we would like to build a gallery space in the middle, perhaps with an open ceiling, so that the ceiling is still visible, and this would be open to the public. So we already actually have the donation for this. So the public would park in the rear, come through the lobby at grade, take the elevator up, and come into this incredible attic space and visit the gallery. And then this is just the roof plan, which shows where the mechanical units go. One of the reasons we were doing these additions to the building is because it's just very difficult to put mechanical units inside the old Memorial Hall building on that roof. And we need the life safety support, the elevator, and the staircase. So right now, as you probably all know, there's two package units, what we call package heating and air conditioning units, sitting on a temporary platform in the rear of the addition, the rear of the building. And those we would remove from the temporary platform, build our addition, and then put them on the top of the building where they belong. We would probably also have one or two more units up there. The kitchen exhaust would be up there, and the heating and cooling for the rear addition itself would be up there. So anything you see in the dotted line, again, it's a deviation from what you had approved in 2016. And so we've started looking at the exterior. Anything that says previously approved was previously approved. And the dotted line would be the rear addition that we would like to do, and the front graphics wall. So the new things have these dotted lines around them again. We would also like to brand the building. Rather than put a sign in the front yard, we'd like to put the words on the overhang in the front, which is right here, and in the rear, which is back here. So each entrance would get the words, the Stissing Center, in letters, which is also not on our 2016 application. So I'll just share I think, is there one more page here? Yes, there's one more page. I'm actually going to share a photograph first. So this is the front of the building now. We would like to build a screen wall here in front of the staircase, take down the gray plywood and build a screen wall that lets light through, that's sort of slatted, but is a place where we could mount signage. We're finding that the banners are too high up for motorists to see or passersby to see. And this is really the best place to communicate what's happening in the building to the Pine Plains community. And it also would screen that hole. Right now, dead leaves and things go under the staircase. And we just need, it's kind of unsightly. So we'd like to do something kind of nice and fun there and have a little bit of sign lighting so it enlivens the streetscape. So that's part of our program. So the other points in the narrative were the site lighting.
So are the banners staying also? So there's additional, or you're saying those aren't effective and you want to get rid of them? I didn't quite understand that part.
Well, the banners actually the two side ones are gone. And Brett and his team just changed the two front ones because these are quite old. They're from when Wynton Marsalis opened the venue. But I think it just gives us, the banners are not effective for saying what's happening, on a weekly basis. The banners, we might use the banners. I think that's really a question for Brett, how often he sees changing the banners. And the banners can be different sizes, but
This thing. Go ahead.
All right, so then in the narrative, the other points we have are the site lighting would be slightly different from what you approved before. It would be the lighting here and the lighting around the back. We need some step lights and things to navigate people around the back. Let me go back to the site plan here. So we need some lighting around here to light the pathways, which would be different than what we brought to you in 2016 because the building has changed. And then the graphics lighting. Number two in the narrative is the parking, which I kind of already talked about. It's made necessary by the new footprint. Number three is the marquee wall we talked about, that I showed you the photograph of. Number four is the side porch. Now, Brett just asked you for permission to keep the temporary porch until we undertake the construction, the temporary roof. But we also, in October, we came to you with a different pergola design for this side facing Stissing House Restaurant because we thought we didn't have the money to build the side porch. I think the institution and Brett and I would like to see that side porch put on if we had the money. But it was prior approved in 2016. So I don't know if we need to ask for a reinstatement of that approval or if we can just let it stand. So that's number four in the narrative is the side porch. And then 6, the interior renovations. I kind of went over that with you, which would be the slightly larger venue in the basement, slightly larger kitchen, moving the dressing rooms to a mezzanine floor above the backstage, and then the office and incubator spaces we talked about on the top floor. So it's really kind of a tweaking of what's been already approved. It's just not exactly what you approved. It's a different footprint and some different lighting and some slightly different uses. Do you want to add anything to that, Brett, about programming?
I could just say that the number 7 thing, Doug, that we already had talked about, which was the change of use for the first floor from community space to venue space.
Right, exactly. I can show you what you approved in 2016. Let's see. I can find it. I have to blow this up because it's quite small. So this is the 2016 application. So here's the lower level. We said community room, dressing rooms, and kitchen. But in the application I just showed you. We have that in the phone. This is what we're talking about now. Slightly larger community room, the dressing rooms are gone, and the kitchen is still over there on the west side.
I forget, I know these are all represented in drawings, but do you have like a spreadsheet of just what's been approved and maybe Can I ask for that? Like what was approved and done, what was approved, not done, and you plan on doing, what was approved, but you want to change and what's new? Is that possible?
Well, it's kind of all summarized right here. Anything gray was prior approved. Anything dark
I
is,
understand that. Just as a reference, it doesn't have to be super specific. You maybe even number these things and then refer to it.
Well, did you said you have in there, where's the A? What are the 1 through 7?
What's that?
Was he reading through? part
Yeah,
of
he
it?
said-
oh, it's a narrative, there's a project narrative, yeah.
There is. Okay, but I just like to see that spreadsheet too. Just so you can refer back and forth and just. And when it was approved, that was another thing, right? Because there's been a couple of different approvals.
Okay, I can make a spreadsheet with a column for the 16 approval, the 18 approval, the 22. and the
That'd be great. And then
Okay.
what you're keeping, what you're getting rid of or not gonna follow through on, what has been done. This is, just, it'd be really nice to make everything clear to everybody. Especially since the board has changed since then.
Doug?
Yeah,
I have a question about the style of the addition at the back. And I'm just wondering whether that's something which has been developed at this point, or this is just a schematic to show the concept of adding an addition, or like, how far have you got in terms of thinking that through?
yeah, at the moment, this is just a placeholder for the footprint and the envelope.
So
So
those
you-
windows which are shown on the east elevation, the new addition with those windows at the lower level, those are just placeholders. On the top
over
left.
over here,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, these are kind of placeholders. It's really the envelope, the shape. We're looking at ways of lightening it up and maybe using a cal wall system around the staircase so it kind of glows at night like a lantern.
But
but
are you
it-
looking, are you looking to do a different sort of architectural vernacular than what you have currently?
No, we're looking to keep the brick and the mansard as the old building, and the porches and the rear are contemporary. And it's really back here is really utilitarian. There's an elevator, a fire stair, a service entrance. So I think the best way to handle that is just to make it very clean and simple, and not
So
so.
what would the exterior material be?
We would do the same thing. We would do a concrete, strike a line and have a concrete base like the front porch. And then we would use a steel panel system and possibly a translucent material for the fire stair. And we have this one surface here which faces Stissing House, it needs to be totally blank because it's all backstage functions. There can't be any light there. So that we were thinking about doing a place for a mural or perhaps projections. It faces that area where the old it's not bocce, the French ball game that Patricia and Michelle used to have there. So this facade, the facades aren't fully developed yet. It's really just the envelope and the footprint and the things that the planning board needs to approve, the use and the lighting and things like that. But we know that we need to, or we're planning to come to you now because we would like approval in order to start this in the fall. And so we know that sometimes you have comments and we need to come back. So that's why we're coming to you in May.
Okay. So, all right, so this is basically, some of this is kind of sketch plan. Like, we're not totally sure what we're doing, some of it, but some of it, you're sure of those interior things.
Yeah, the uses and the bulk, yes, but.
And the footprint.
And the use, which is really the purview of the planning board, unless there's the planning board, if you'd like to see some architectural renderings or something, that's fine. We were just planning on starting the dialogue and talking about.
Well, I mean, when you get into like possibly doing projections and lights or murals that are lighted or anything, I mean, obviously that would affect things, right? on the side of the building and just.
Yeah, that's.
What's
certainly
what's the graphic wall thing made out of?
Well, it would be something that would have to be paintable. So it probably would be some kind of paintable exterior grade cladding.
I mean, we do have a sign ordinance, in our zoning and, you know, so between the signs, the banners, and now this out front, I'm sorry, I don't really feel that it really fits in Pine Plains to what we're trying to achieve, and then now a side porch, which was on originally, but it doesn't look like the porch that was originally thought about. So, yeah, we approved one porch, but
The porch is still the same look. I'm sorry for interrupting, excuse me. It's the porch that Doug is referring back to, the one that you approved. The look would not change from what was originally submitted. It mirrors the front of the building.
wasn't it kind of a round, not a round, but a.
But did we
oval shape?
What?
No,
No.
it was
No,
all,
this-
On this-
it literally just covers that. Where that temporary roof is, it literally just covers that space.
In a
It would be
subsequent
just like
approval,
this
did you
one.
guys, excuse me, did you guys change? Did we approve something different already in that space, or you guys just never built it?
It's never been built.
Built.
We didn't approve something else,
Correct.
like the stairs down or anything like that?
Correct.
Warren, how does that work with like things that we approved in 2016, they haven't built it yet? Is the approval still hold, or like what?
Yeah, it's pretty complicated. I think that what your suggestion was excellent, that we have some sort of graphic or submittal showing what was approved, what was built, what has not been built, what you want to change, and, you know, put that into whatever form you think is understandable to the planning board.
All right.
But is there a statute to that development? Say they put their original plan had a landscaping plan, which none of it was
Ever done.
done. Because they had obtained the next building and they changed their plans. and
I
whatnot.
know, I mean, this is like a.
So this is now
work
8
in
years
progress.
later, right? So.
So should this be a new application?
Well, I mean, you'd be amending the site plan
Yeah,
approval
it's
to
just
the
amending.
building. I think everybody needs to understand exactly what the history was and what has been approved, and I can't.
All right, we're gonna have to get our hands around that
Sure,
and
George.
heads around that.
I think that would.
Yeah, George is new to this completely. He wasn't here for
Right.
the other one. We,
Fall.
half the board is not. Okay. One other thing I want to, who is recusing from this? Okay. So Steve and Kate will not be participating in this application because of their connections to the statistics. Center. Everyone just keep that in mind.
And one other thing, sir,
Oh,
if I may,
Sure.
that temporary roof, I've spoken to Drew about it, but that was supposed to, we were told, I think last meeting, May,
it's coming up in a
It's
couple of
coming up.
days.
and we'd
So-
like to ask for an extension.
So can we just do that by motion, right? So can we have a motion to extend in 3 days or something?
The end of May 15th.
Oh, yeah, 5 days. So
I'm gonna extend that
for
for 90 days.
90 days? They're not. They're not gonna get anything done, 6 months. I mean, we will not, we won't even be close to doing anything, and then they'd be
Gotcha.
building stuff. I mean, obviously, we could just do it by a vote again at another meeting, but.
6 months,
Yeah.
fine with me.
Can I have a motion to extend the temporary side roof thing, allowing that to remain there for the next 6 months?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
What's gonna happen with the laundromat?
We are actively looking, and our commitment is to keep it. Our commitment is to make sure that does not disappear. Our commitment is to keep it going. Unfortunately, we are struggling to find locations because of septic rules. So we are we are going as so far as to even literally say, what would it cost if we were redid Shaw House and put it in there because of the septic thing? That's a whole separate fundraising plan. So right now Doug and his team are just working on keeping it open throughout the construction process. As soon as we have an inkling of what we're gonna do, we'll be back in front of this group with that.
Okay.
I think we would keep it open until, even if we renovated around it, until we found a new location.
No,
Just
so-
the ADA spaces.
Right, the ADA space.
At the one meeting, we took out because you were moving them, I thought.
So what we
The
did,
ones in the back were,
Went to the side.
went to the side and now you're putting them back.
we'd like to put two in
Right.
that back because that
Yeah.
elevator that accesses the entire building will be
I
back there.
get that.
So
They
like,
moved them, now they're
like
putting
just
them back.
thinking. of
Well, they're
moving
putting
forward,
two new spaces. It's two new
Yeah.
spaces, is really how we look at it.
Any programming changes inside the
he's
building
got
that spill out to site, right, for parking needs or wastewater needs.
Oh,
or anything
right.
Like that should be shown, like the landscaping thing should be shown. And the other big item that caught my attention, which I know nobody's gonna want me to say out loud, definitely not the applicant, is that screening wall is in the DOT right away. So the DOT needs to,
Right, that's what happened. Originally, it was supposed to be a cement stairs.
it's the DOT right away.
Oh,
It, was-
Right.
it originally was gonna be cement stairs, and that's why they made some removable stairs or whatever.
DOT needs to approve
Yeah.
anything that happens in there.
Right.
It's Not our.
Oh, I had another question, the incubator space. So is that, what is incubate, what are you
So-
incubating?
If I may. Words, what the board has always envisioned. Let's erase the word incubator because to be perfectly frank, we do not have the resources to create a viable incubator.
Okay,
What it is the other side of the art gallery. If other nonprofits want to come to Pine Plains and hopefully set up to help support Pine Plains, we can provide them with desk space to get started. That's our version of incubator space without it being an incubator space. It's nothing more than space.
and does that, so that's not, that wouldn't be another use, right? More.
No, I mean, that's customary.
Okay.
I think Rhinebeck Performing Arts has a similar type of situation.
Which one?
Rhinebeck Performing Arts,
Oh, actually, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even think about them. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, yeah. So a lot to nail down and a lot of, let's get everything straight. Like I said, if we get that matrix with how I talked about it before. And,
It's a lot to take in.
yeah, and we'll have to, work on it.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank
this
you.
evening. Thanks, Doug.
Sure. So,
Thank you, Doug. Take care. Oh,
Sure.
yes? What's
So
up?
I'm just trying to come up with deliverables to resubmit. So the matrix, resubmit the matrix. And is do you need to review this and let us know if there's anything else you'd like to see? You mentioned the
Well, I think
landscape
some
plan.
clarity on those the elevations with the back, with mural, whatever's gonna happen back there.
Okay.
And the roof, which I call the third floor,
The
which I'm
mansard
not
roof.
sure what it is it gonna stay the same style?
Yes.
Or are you totally changing that?
No, the roof will stay the same. We're,
All the windows and the shape and.
everything will stay the same. That's part of the enormous expense of that roof is putting it all back together again.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Okay,
need to restore the, we need to
Well,
restore
it's
all the
all-
windows and it needs to be painted. There's a lot of work to do to the eaves, which is why we need the temporary roof. We need gutters put back on. In order to do all of that work, we have to scaffold the entire building, which is what Brett was referring to.
Yeah.
So we just want to agglomerate all of that work and do it this fall with the scaffolding and get up there and fix everything.
You have a projected timeline for how long this would take? If what you just presented, Doug, was exactly what gets approved, roughly how long?
Well, I think we need the summer to do the drawings and we need to tee it. We've got a contractor already on board and we're having them hold the space in the fall, but any construction project is 9 months to a year. So it was, hopefully we start in October and finish, by the following fall. We would keep, the scaffolding will be up for several months while we work on the roof, but it will come down as soon as we can. And we would keep the venue open as long as we could and just make sure the life safety, egress routes and things are taken care of. The way we've been handling this project to date is, since we got the approval from the planning board, we've been preparing building department packages and getting permits from Drew to put in the chunks of work that we can afford. So we would hope to get a building permit in for a fall start. But of course, we need the planning board approval first.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Everyone's gonna have some work to do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doug.
Thank you, board.
Thank
Bye.
you. All right, next up, and last up, the stewards. Oh, here we go. Okay.
I'll be quick. Apologize, I don't know if this is the best spot.
It's gonna have to do.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Trisha, do you have that? If you could pull it up, just so people on Zoom, on the video can see it.
I think anyone's still watching.
Well, they might watch that later. Yeah, you'd have to be here. This is, I have. No.
Good evening, my name is Marcus Andrews, I'm with Stewards. Quick introduction this evening for proposed new steward shop.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know, I thought Warren stepped out, but he's right there.
Directly behind our existing steward shop on Route 82 here in the town of Pine Plains. We're proposing approximately 4,000 square foot new stewards. Again, directly behind the new or the existing building. Our proposal would be to construct this building. Once the building is ready to open, we would demo the old building. The old gas canopy and tanks would also be removed. Once all of those are out of the way, we construct a new canopy, new gas tanks. The existing entrance off Route 82 would remain, and off the side road here, we'd have 3 full access curb cuts, 2 in the front here, pretty much for circulation for the gas as well as customer parking. This back entrance would strictly pretty much be for deliveries as well as some overflow parking in the back. Existing septic field sits pretty much right underneath where the proposed building is. We're proposing the construction of a new septic field for this building. Plans have been submitted to Dutchess County Department of Health for their initial review on as well. DOT has early stage plans with this. They are fine with the entrance remaining the same. Their biggest issue is the sidewalks out front, which will incorporate replacing as part of this project. LED lighting downlit throughout on light poles, recessed on the canopy as well as on the building. And we did, we've been before the zoning board. We have approval for the front yard setback of the building. I believe the resolution's set to be signed at their.
Yeah, you have a preliminary approval and awaiting the resolution with the reasons why they're overruling the county. So this is just to make it clear that this is a sketch plan preliminary discussion tonight.
That's a quick summary of what we're looking to do. I'll open it up to the board for any questions, comments, or concerns.
Well, one thing I have, and I'm gonna have to ping you about it because you guys bought the property from Dale Mitchell last year.
Yep.
And part of our secret review process, we had to ask what the purpose was for that purchase. And we were told you had no plans to develop anything. And then somewhere in like a month later, it came to you guys that, wow, we could use this to expand our store, when that's not probably really what happened.
No.
I'll be completely honest, I was in the dark on that approval as well. I was not aware that that was brought up until we were before zoning, that it was brought up, we didn't have plans. Obviously, I don't know what happened then. Now we are proposing
for, an additional, new construction, redevelopment of the site.
But it causes us to. To segment our secret review because we approved that, whatever, it's all fine. Not that it's saying it's a problem. But we weren't allowed to take into account the use of that at that time. I don't know, Warren, does that affect anything with this or?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we went through that process, but at this point, it's kind of a moot point. I don't think we'll hold up the project, but I'm kind of interested. What was the variance that the CBA issued?
Zoning front yard setback is 10-yard or 10-foot minimum, 25 max. So we got a variance for the front setback of our building to be at 163.5 feet.
That was the only variance?
That was the only, we had a larger building at one time. We brought it to below the 4,000 to keep it under that threshold.
Isn't that the seeker standard, under the seeker?
It does for the 4,000.
Yeah.
I still think it's special use, my bushes to unlisted, but either way, it's in the code as well as far as the size of a convenience store.
Right. So we're gonna want to see the decision. I wasn't involved in the decision from the ZBA, so we want to see that.
Yep.
And that has to go to county planning because they recommended against it, I guess.
Yes.
Correct.
They did.
They
Yeah,
had
they
to
did.
approve it through a super majority.
Yeah,
Which
so
they
we want to see that. So we'll deal with it with just site plan review. Is that what we're just looking for? Not special permit?
Drew,
I believe it's both.
Special
Drew, are
permit?
you there? Are you frozen?
Yeah, I'm here.
You
I'm not
pasted it.
sure.
All right, and stuck it up.
It's been frozen.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, he's
Probably
It's
special
live on the
permit site.
computer.
oh,
Your agenda has it as well.
Both, yeah, okay.
Drew, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
I don't hear him.
Yes.
We don't hear you. I don't know what happened.
He's on mute.
He's not.
No, I'm
No,
not.
but that's,
He's not.
yeah, the whole thing may be crap.
It's on the computer.
Well, stop sharing and see what I.
He screenshotted himself.
Can you hear me?
The whole thing crap?
Well, it's fine on my computer, but it's not working.
Oh.
It's tired.
All right, we're not, I think it's correct that it is both a special use permit.
The county comment on the parking in the front rather than the back?
They did not. Their comment was strictly on pretty much the comprehensive plan for the town having the buildings located up front.
And being a gateway property.
I have a question. Are you planning for diesel?
We are planning for low flow diesel.
What does that mean?
It's the same size nozzle as regular fuel. It's for small vehicles. It's literally low flow. A semi truck would not fill up there. It would take an hour to fill their tank. It's for landscape vehicles, small diesel engine cars to fill up. That would be, this island here would be what we call 3+1. So you'd have normal gas service on both sides as well as diesel service on both sides.
So you don't anticipate that any large vehicles would be coming to?
Large vehicles, again, I'm not gonna outside of deliveries, yes, but as far as fueling. I'm not a truck driver, but I have a feeling they know where to go to fill up. This is not a place they would go. It's not
Well, a box truck would.
a box truck. A box truck would if they, and again, the access to diesel for a box truck in the area.
Like a truck that's around
Yes.
here.
They're diesel.
Are you gonna have charging stations?
No charging stations are proposed. We have a handful at our sites throughout the state, strictly installed for and paid for either by Tesla or New York Power Authority. It is a fairly large expense for, site like this. There are the fast chargers, which pretty much every power company charges you per peak kilowatt hour. So if on
the 5th day of the month, somebody comes in and charges their Tesla, the peak goes way up. You get charged every day at that rate. So expense wise, if there ever was Tesla or NIPA that would come in here, they would run their own power, they would run, we pretty much just lease them parking spots. That would be a whole separate
Where would
approval
that be?
outside of that.
It's
Have you made any plans for where that might take place on your site?
Not at this time. We reach out to both Tesla and NIPA when we are early on in this process. Any site throughout the state we're doing, if they're interested, we deal with it then. They were not interested in the site.
George, is there any issues with like the water, there's that stream to the south of this and there's another something like a drainage ditch up on top there.
There's a drainage easement that's
Yeah.
piped through here.
But is there any like Army Corps of Engineers or any of that?
Well, any of the wetlands, like on stream, that would be
Right.
considered a wetland. It's something Dutchess County Health Department probably would want to know about too. 100 feet away from port bodies, wetlands, things like that. Lighting plan, landscaping plan, foot candles.
Yeah, that's all part of the package. that was submitted. Landscaping was not, I owe you landscaping grading. This will be
Grading. yeah.
This will be over an acre
Erosion,
of
sediment,
disturbance, so
stormwater.
there'll be a SWIP for this as well as all the
Vehicle movements through the site.
vehicle movement part of the package as well, showing delivery trucks, the fuel tanker. And I believe it's fire access all through all sides of the building.
Is there gonna be any outside seating?
There will be seating, it's not shown on here, but will be concrete sidewalks throughout, so typically we have picnic tables along the side and along the front. Bike
Couple
rack,
out in the grassy area now.
excuse me,
You have a couple in the grassy area on that
Oh.
side road.
on the side here,
Right in there.
yeah.
Mhm.
There's also, expanded room in the front for, additional landscape features. We did, part of the ZBA approval is just a low wall up front. It's just a 3-foot high wall, just to give the feeling of frontage to the site that, goes more along with your comprehensive plan of getting things closer to the street.
And where is that gonna run again? I'm
That
sorry.
is this line right here,
Along 82.
along 82 and then wrap around the corner.
Isn't there already part of a stone wall there?
There's a monument sign. There's a monument sign that says
okay.
Stewart's with the pricing.
Right,
Right,
and what about your sign?
The sign
Is it gonna change?
the sign will change. It's proposed to be right here.
Yeah, why are you changing away from a monument sign?
Well, if you're requesting a monument sign, I'm fine going to a monument sign. I can tell you this is,
I mean, if we want to minimize that truck stop look, I think that's something you should, I don't think that's gonna work.
this is,
This?
I'll put it right here, a standard sign. I'm not saying, again. That's an easy thing. If that's, if you're looking for a monument sign, we can work that. We can work it. We've done it before, incorporated it into that wall to where you almost take a leg off that wall, put the sign on top,
Okay.
just so it all blends together.
Yeah, I think that was,
So, and it's also gonna be externally lit? The sign?
The sign is proposed to be externally lit. I don't know if it's externally lit now, but I can verify
I
that.
think.
But if you
There
went
might be,
from-
I think there's lights up inside that little roof, has a little roof that matches the roof.
I'm sorry, it's proposed to be internally lit. I don't know if it's externally.
Yeah,
now.
no, we have in our
Yep.
ordinance, our zoning, no internally lit lights. Right? Sign.
Yeah, we want it externally.
Yeah,
And all this LED lighting that's going in,
Yep,
nothing, I haven't looked at it, but is it nothing greater than 3,000 Kelvin?
it won't be, it is not on there. It can be though.
And it's-
3,000 is where you want it.
Well, what's on here?
Think
It's what the
it'd be
count-
Oh, yeah, no, nothing more than 3,000. please.
And the yellow.
Well, that's the,
That's
that's the Kelvin is the.
Yeah, these are all our standard 5700, so.
Yeah, that's two
2000.
white and two.
How many pumps are you proposing?
I believe there are 4 islands with 8 fueling points. 1, 2, 3, 4 islands, so you
How
pump on
many
both
are
sides.
there now?
4, but in a cube to where they're in like this, so if you've got a car parked here, you might not be able to get to this one. If there's a car parked here, you can't get around to get to this one. These being in parallel to where you have full access to pretty much any of the pumps that are open.
So are you anticipating increased traffic or usage as a result of having more pumps?
I would say we're increased, obviously, we're doing the investment to make more money. No business would or wouldn't. The biggest issue up here right now is the tightness in this lot, just getting in and out of this lot, getting around this canopy to the store. We're proposing this just to open up the site, get cars in and out faster. If you're just coming in to get gas, you're getting gas, getting out. Pretty much you're separated away from the building. But yes, I would, we would all hope for additional traffic coming to this store. But again, we're servicing, pretty much the Pine Plains community that's already serviced by this building.
And this is like a roof here. I'm reading this right. There's like the canopy's not just some flat canopy. It's gonna match the roof of the.
It'll match the pitch of the building itself, as well as match the shingles are the same shingles.
Can we see the other applications that were submitted to the ZBA? That's gonna be a huge thing. I think, how can we sit and ignore what county planning said? I know they said it to the ZBA, but this doesn't match our comprehensive plan. It violates a lot. And I know you submitted other plans. I saw them online. I just couldn't really zoom in.
Got no issue,
on
Sharon.
video.
The alternatives is what you're asking.
Yeah.
I think all the alternatives had the problem with them. Was that the building was located where the pumps are now.
Mhm.
And it would require a lot longer not having gas available to the town. I think that's what.
You'd be down day one with gas. For any building.
So
We
you're
want to
saying
stay
for
up, we
the
want to
building
stay
and
open
the
during
pumps in the
construction.
back, you mean?
Or on
Yeah.
the side.
Or
Yeah.
just-
We're looking to stay open during construction.
They don't want to put the pumps. in
We're
the back.
looking to fence off the site, construct this building. Once this building's done, fence off the site as well for demo while this building's being accessed. Taking this building, putting it here, immediately shuts down this entrance and this gas. Limits this store to only a few spots on the side while we construct here. But again, now you're down minimum 12 weeks with gas.
What's the retail life of the store that you're planning to build? Years wise? The design life.
We've been doing them now for maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years, this style building, and we don't have plans to rebuild for 20. Like, I can't,
Right, so 20 or 30 years compared to 12 weeks without gas, that's what I'm saying. This is something we have to live with as a town. In line with everything that's been set out in our comprehensive plan and in our zoning law. The extra 12 weeks that stinks. But compared to the 30 years of living with something that goes against what the town has already proposed, we want. That's my argument.
Well, but it's 12 weeks and not for the applicants, for the town
But
residents.
why wouldn't you be able
And that-
to put in new gas pumps in the back as the first step? And then build the building after you, why do you have to do the order that you're saying?
because number one, with this building is orientated this way. New gas pumps back here won't be visible. You need visibility to the gas pumps. That's the first thing. Number two,
Visibility for
safety.
the employees.
For the employees need visibility to the person pumping gas. So you're not sitting there spilling it on the ground, you're not filling it into a glass container.
To be clear, is that a Stewart's
That is a
policy
New
and
York State
procedure, or
policy.
that's New York? Okay.
That is a New York State policy.
But in the alternate plans that were proposed, right, the front of the store does face those pumps, correct?
They put the pumps on the
Which-
side.
With the pumps on the side.
With the pumps in the back.
Were they at the
Okay.
back or?
This
I thought-
On the
This
side.
building is not, this lot is not wide enough to have a building here and gas here.
Okay.
Building here, gas here, building here, gas here. Is where the alternate designs were.
Okay, wait, where was the gas?
If the building is here,
Yeah,
your gas ends up being
back here.
here. If the building's in this corner, your gas is either similar to this or
Not for nothing, but if you would, if someone had come and talked about it when you guys were buying the property, we said buy the property to the side instead of the property to the rear, then.
totally different story.
Then it could have
Then-
been,
then
and if
yes.
we had done that as part as it was supposed to be.
Building here, gas there. Yeah, you're correct. This was what we purchased though.
Do they need to get an updated easement? Because they don't own that southern access. That's still Dale's property. That southern entrance.
We have an access easement in place for this.
But is it for the existing two entrances and not for the
It's-
third island?
It's
and the-
for the existing frontage.
Okay.
And yeah, do you have to go back to DOT for any of this, or is it
DOT, we will need a permit, strictly again for sidewalks.
just for the?
They're fine with that entrance. Another issue with building up front is the look of the building. You're looking at the back of our building for the front of our building to be facing gas. The back of their building, deliveries, mechanicals, all those items sit on the back of our buildings.
What is the
This
material?
view,
What is the siding material
siding is a hardy board. It's like the cement siding.
and the roof?
The roof is asphalt shingles.
All right. Well, obviously, like you said, this is a preliminary discussion. You heard some of the points. Drew, are you there now? Drew?
Been here.
You were frozen. So I just
Can you hear
really
me?
quick want you to the determination you made, if you could inform Warren about the determination about the square footage and how we end up with a did not need a variance for the square footage. You're muted.
No, I can do that.
They
I'll take that down.
they modified the square footage. It was.
No, but there was a worry that it could only be 2,000 or something square feet.
Yeah.
And what happened with it is informed, I'm not talking about the 25 foot they lopped off. I'm talking about originally, when they first looked at the zoning, we thought it was 2,000, but go ahead. Oh, Drew is muted again.
It's because it's not a service station.
Hmm.
I believe is what.
Yeah, I believe service stations were listed at a
Convenience
max of
store plus
2,500.
gas.
Right, well, okay.
Convenience store with gas could be up to 4.
So that's why it ended up being this 4,000, then it was 4,025 and they just lopped off 25
Exactly.
square.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's.
Correct.
Thank you, Drew. All right, and with that, we'll see you when I get your actual resolution. You know, the ZBA has to do that resolution and vote on it.
I've seen the draft.
Okay,
I believe it should be signed this meeting and
and then we'll have a complete application before we start working on it.
next month,
It'll be on the agenda for next month. If you get that,
I'll get everything you're looking for, alternative designs that were submitted prior and
George, did you have anything that's missing from what they?
I'll take a closer look at it.
Yeah,
but-
just send a memo
Yeah.
around, like, if there's anything he's, and Warren,
We-
Warren, the same thing.
We talked about, I'll change the lighting, so we'll work on,
Monument sign.
I will try to get SWIP by then, but I'm grading definitely.
Yeah.
The signage definitely.
Are you submitting a new landscaping design?
The landscaping plan will be part of the next submittal.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
The other application.
Anyone else?
Business.
Yeah, we're not doing this. I'm fried. Minutes. We'll just do it next time. Thank you.
You done?
Yeah, we're gonna. So Warren, if there's anything missing from their application, like George is gonna put a memo together, anything he sees further that he wants. Yeah, for Stewart, anything missing, put a memo together and we'll send it to them. And then if they get their official resolution done by the ZBA, then we'll accept the application for next month.
Absolutely.
All right, can I have a
Yes.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? All right, meeting.